All right, that's enough of that. Welcome to What Are the Odds with Barnes and Baris? It's just me for right now. He'll be here. You know the drill. Don't forget, if you like the videos, to like them and to share them far and wide. Of course, the best place to follow me is on Locals, peoplespundit.locals.com, peoplespundit.locals.com, Robert at sportspicks.locals.com. The links and the URLs are all in the description. We're on X. We're on Insta. Don't forget, coming in hot on the Insta. All right. At peoples_pundit. At peoples_pundit. All right. So unless you're a Locals member, you're about to see polling here for the first time. Well, this episode, it's not coming. We're going to leave you on a bit of a cliffhanger. We did some very interesting 2028 matchups. We did Vance with Rubio as a second at the bottom of the ticket against Newsom and John Ossoff. And then it hasn't come out yet. It will be out. We did Rubio a standalone against Newsom. And then we did Tucker and Joe Kent. Well, Tucker, then Joe Kent with Tucker as a second, because we wanted to show full tickets for one of the scenarios as an independent ticket and what it would do. You may remember a couple of months ago, Cernovich had said something along the lines, if Joe Kent or Tucker run, they will destroy the Republican Party. They'd win. He said they'd win. And I mean, a little spoiler alert, maybe they would at some point. Maybe it'll get that bad for Republicans. Right now, of course, it's not a question of whether they would win. It's a question of how much would a viable independent ticket send back the Republican Party? Are we looking at like a Ross Perot kind of situation? And I think, you know what? I mean, I'll say this again, spoiler alert, until we look at the actual data. There's no doubt that Tucker and then Joe Kent take more from the Republican side, although they take a significant amount from both sides. But they do take more from the Republican side, and it's looking like Ross Perot territory with likely voters. With registered, it's less so. With likely, it's looking like a Ross Perot kind of situation, which, by the way, I don't know what else we would expect, which is the point of this episode. It's a reality check time, all right? Look, guys, there are opinions, and then there are feelings, and then there are certain indicators that actually do have predictive value when it comes to elections. One of them, the reason I've been screaming at the top of my lungs about the partisan affiliation trend, because we are not a poll that waits for party. We are very much in the camp that if you wait for party, you're doing something else wrong. Waiting for party is a cover-up strategy used by pollsters who aren't getting representative samples for subgroups in their entire population that they're studying. This has been a long ongoing debate in the polling industry. And honestly, I thought I settled it in 2016 when I wiped the floor with everybody, but apparently not. And we just keep going. If you have to wait for party, it means that you're doing something else wrong. Tell me, if you have to wait for party, how the hell do you spot partisan affiliation trends if you're constantly telling the electorate what it should look like instead of paying attention to the electorate because they will tell you what they are going to look like? How do you do that? How on earth could you ever spot that trend? Even more so, if you go and look at exit polls, one election after the other, you will see that party identification, not registration, party identification never stays the same. So if you're waiting to a prior election, guess what? You're going to screw it up, because no electorate mirrors the next subsequent electorate. So if you're waiting for party, you are once again making an assumption as a pollster that you shouldn't be making. And party affiliation is very predictive. If a party is losing affiliation, which, by the way, will then lead to registrations, if they are losing on that trend, guess what? They lose elections. It's not that hard. This isn't like rocket science. Let me bring in Robert, though, to say hello, to speak his piece. What's going on, brother? How are we doing this week?
Good. I think we'll tonight we'll go through the Senate map, what conditions drive Senate outcomes in midterms, which are very different than the House. They're not the same. No guarantees of turnover. Their last two midterm cycles saw a positive gain for the incumbent party in the White House. and we'll go through, why people think the map is usually the map has dictated the outcomes. So even when you've seen major swings in this, in the Senate, it's because the map was unfavorable to the incumbent party. When the map has been favorable to the incumbent party, it's done well, unless some combination of 4 factors are present. We'll go through what those 4 factors are, what to look for to measure public opinion concerning those factors, and that will dictate heavily the direction of the Senate outcome. We got upcoming, primaries in tomorrow in California. I think is Michigan tomorrow too.
No, Michigan is, well, at least the Democratic one's in August. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I just looked that up. Give me 1 second, guys. I'll look it up right now.
Yeah, double check that one. I guess a week from Tuesday, South Carolina's primary.
Yeah, August 4th. August 4th.
August 4th. So it's all the way. Wow. So there's plenty of time for that.
Yeah.
But you see, in that race, the difficulty of the prediction markets are over impacted by the various polling that's out there, and the polling is quite literally all over the place in Michigan on the Democratic side. Yeah, there's some that say they have 3 major candidates, and there have been polls showing one of the 3 with a big lead, which obviously can't happen, and tons of AIPAC money pouring in for Haley Stevens in that race. It looks like, in fact, that they're behind a $5 million. They like to hide their sources these days.
Always.
$5 million plus being dumped on her behalf. Israel will be an interesting proxy issue, I think, through that Democratic primary race. How overt is it? How open is it? How behind the scenes is it? How much do voters process it? Big age gaps in that electorate too. So that'll be an interesting Democratic primary to watch on the Senate side. The other big Republican primary to watch on the Senate side will be South Carolina next Tuesday. Either candidate has to get over 50%, or there'll be a runoff. Similar, probably will be a runoff in the gubernatorial primary there. We'll get back to the House probably in July once it's clear what redistricting has and hasn't done. Alabama's still up in the air, Georgia up in the air. Looks like South Carolina's not going to get the redistricting done.
And Paul thought they would. Paul was down there cracking heads, just so everybody understands what a monumental mistake again. And I like Mark Lynch, but look, the fact of the matter is Paul Dans was over there cracking heads and handing out spines, trying to get this done. And he was really confident. He was like, no, I think we're going to get this, and I don't know, man. Republicans, Southern Republicans. Paul is exactly like that low country kind of new migrant Republican. Not new. I mean, he's been there for many years, but that's why I argued it needed to be a low country. And that's why, by the way, I'll just outwardly say it. President Trump and his shit endorsement of Yvette in that gubernatorial election, guys, she is the most liberal garbage Republican even running. I'd rather vote for Ralph Northam over this woman. I mean, this is the worst, maybe the worst endorsement by Donald Trump of the cycle. He did it because Nancy Mace wouldn't cave to him over the Epstein file petition again with this nonsense, even though Nancy has had his back with everything. And because I know the details of that conversation, it's even more disgusting. It's even more disgusting. Republicans, get it through your heads. The South is changing. If you don't start electing people like low country Republicans in places like South Carolina, they're gonna look like Georgia before you know it. They're just, man, got to be like one of the dumbest things, honestly, I've ever seen. Like it's just unreal to me. Go ahead.
Is Florida not until August 2? When is Florida's primary?
Florida is, I looked at that recently because what's his name did a poll over there. Florida was always late. They were later than Michigan, if I remember correctly. Yes, they are. August 18th. Florida was always late, man. And it was like it drove a lot of us nuts back in my Florida days because it was like, we have these like drug out primaries, these long, hard fights. And a lot of times they were even back then standards, they were expensive. And then you wanted us to pivot in 2 months to win a razor tight election before Florida was, what it is now, which by the way, it will be close. People are like, when you're done with your opening comments, then I'm going to play something because it's like the ultimate like step on people's political graves video for you and I to play. Like, because it's just, I'll let you finish what you're going to say here first, and then I'll play it.
Yeah,
it's got to be played. Got to be.
We'll go through the whole Senate map. Some of that will be determined by primaries yet to happen. Some of it will be impacted by whether third-party candidates, whether libertarians mount serious candidates, like they are mounting a very serious candidate in Montana for the U.S. Senate. They may do the same in South Carolina. That could make a difference in some of these close seats, close races. Will they do so in Michigan? There's a range of places where you might see third-party or independent candidates get unusual amount of public or voting attention that could impact in some tight races. But we'll look at the entire Senate map. For the Sports Picks members, I put out a deep dive on what I thought gave odds for every single Senate seat.
I saw that,
So so people can go there to the Sports Picks if they want, what exactly I think the odds should be for every single Senate race. But we'll give you a general overview in which seats are competitive, and the history of surprises if it's going to be a swing cycle for the Senate. And it will identify and highlight the 4 factors for that. But the Senate will be the priority. But if you have any particular question about a particular race, just put in a super chat and we'll get to it.
Yeah, let me just add to something Robert said before I play this clip, which is I'll argue that there are circumstances surrounding Senate maps and how they end up in midterms. Most of them are cyclical, right? And Robert and I will talk about this, like, except in these cases and except when these things happened. And I'm going to throw on top of all of that the nature of the realignment in today's cycle. All right. So the reason in 22, and for those who watch Inside the Numbers, this, we laid out why Democrats were able to buck history in 22, especially with Biden's numbers being so bad. All right. One of them, which is an enormously important factor, was the nature of the realignment, and that Democrats understood it better. They understood that, oh my God, you know what? For once, we're not the ones who are going to have a hard time in a midterm because our voters are now the higher propensity voters. We now have the high propensity older voters. We now have the high propensity educated white voters. We now have even the excited, more motivated non-whites that still do vote in significant numbers, not Hispanics, but Black population specifically, especially in the South, which is going to be important for John Ossoff's race in Georgia. It's going to be very important for Michael Whatley and Roy Cooper in North Carolina, which, by the way, I'm telling you, North Carolina is looking like I don't even want to look on election day at my own state. I don't want to look. It's so bad, Robert. It's so bad. And then that's something I think that Republicans, which is why on election day, on election night, 2024, I was going around to all these shows taking my victory lap, but also throwing cold water on people because everyone's so excited. And I'm like, okay, but you guys need to understand and process this. Like, you don't have time to go through the learn this on a curve, bro. Like, you have to learn this right now, that your coalition is a lower propensity coalition now. You have a bigger coalition, which they blew up. They don't have anymore, I would argue. But they had a bigger propensity, a bigger coalition, but it was lower propensity, and that they needed to understand that things needed to be done in order to not be wiped out in the midterms. All right. Just because of the realignment alone. These are lessons we should have seen Republicans learn in 22, but they didn't. So I just want to play this clip though, because I clipped it because going into 24, Robert, this was one of the guys who, while you and I and very few other people, but it was like this crazy dichotomy, this crazy like dual universe where, the right just knew Trump was going to win. And everyone should have known the left shouldn't have been led to believe delusions, which they were, and they were being force-fed slop on a level by like David Plouffe and others that I couldn't believe with my ears, because I knew David Plouffe knew the real situation. So I knew because people were giving me Kamala Harris's polling. For those who followed us, you remember, I knew Harris was down in her own polls in each state. I guessed the margin correctly in all the states. I knew. And by the way, so did Steve over on Real America's Voice, not Steve Bannon. Steve, who's in Michigan, Steve. And I'll never forget that day. And yet David Plouffe was out there telling people how internally things look so good and that these are just right-wing polls flooding the zone. It's all BS. And one voice who is not known to be a right-winger was doing something along with me that was admirable. He was trying to prepare the left for losing. He was trying to tell them, look, I talked to people on both sides, and I'm telling you, the internal polling at this level is more robust, it's more granular, and nobody expects Harris to win this thing. In fact, it's probably not even going to be close. And people are like, he's crazy. He's nuts. He's just trying to get YouTube clicks. Harris is way ahead. Look at my new Maris poll, which I'm going to show you. And Harris is ahead by 4 in Arizona. Meanwhile, she got killed in Arizona. That was a 10-point miss by them. And this was not a hard race to poll. It wasn't. 24 was not like a difficult environment, folks. Like 2020 was a difficult environment with COVID. There were like crazy response biases. There were framing biases, social biases, cognitive biases, participation biases. It was like getting thrown at you from every angle, and you had to navigate it. And like one or two of us did, right? Whereas everyone else really shit the bed, even if they got it technically right that Biden won. Famously ABC News, they had Biden up by 17 in Wisconsin, a race he won by 0.2%. All right. So I'm going to play this because he said something this morning in his morning show that is almost unthinkable 6 months ago when you and I were saying, this is where we're going to end up. Especially, by the way, if you start the war with Iran, this is where we will end up. Now it's starting to sink into the mainstream, yet there still are super delusions on the right about the reality of the national mood that we're in and what that national mood means for these states that they still think are going to vote like 24, and that's just not reality. And let me go ahead and play this clip, and then we'll address some of what he says. Hold on.
Gentlemen, if you're
They
cheering
didn't want
for
the hammer to fall in the first place.
well, some of them did. If you're cheering for the Republicans in the midterms, I'm telling you that if you don't talk to Republican strategists with polling data, you have your head in the sand if you think this is going to go well on the current trajectory related to the war, related to all the things the president focused on, putting his picture on money, building things named after him, lots of buck raking by him and his family. All of these things are driving Republican strategists and candidates on the ballot bonkers, because right now this is setting up to be a wipeout for the Democratic Party. It could change. It could change, but currently it's setting up to be a wipeout. And that's not a partisan view or a media exaggeration. It is based on the polling of Republicans in lots of these states. And you may see states you're not expecting at all to go for Democrat, have Democratic wins. Democrats could, I say could, pick up 8 seats in the Senate. They could. Net 8 seats. That'd be incredible.
All right, time out, because I do want to play some more of this, Robert, but just time out. Let's just soak this in and digest this really quickly. Because what Mark is doing is what he did before 24. Mark knows a lot of people. For anyone who doesn't know what this is, it's obvious. Mark Halpern, he's been around a long time. He now does his morning meeting of his show two-way. I love the show. I'll be honest. I'm a big fan of the show, and I think he could do a little bit better with some guests sometimes, but whatever. All right, I'm a big fan of the show, and I think I like that Mark calls balls and strikes now in a way that he wasn't able to do when he worked for like MSNBC and NBC and some of the other outlets. He was on Showtime's The Circus. All right, so this dude's been around. Both sides are very comfortable talking to Mark Halpern. He's a very easy guy to get along with. He's a very honest guy to go back and forth with. He doesn't, he doesn't sugarcoat stuff. He doesn't glaze, but he also doesn't, how could I put this? From like my perspective, when I get contacted by like CNN or like Wall Street Journal or the Washington Post or the New York Times, they've gotten better with me because they view me as like being more of a Trump critic now. So they've gotten better, but it always used to be this very like catty Robert, like, like they want to hear my point, but somehow they still think they know better. Like Mark isn't one of those guys. He legit is talking to both sides. He's very trustworthy. At least I have found him to be trustworthy. I'll just say that I can give Mark a poll. Not going to leak. Will he go on and reference it and not say, yeah, but he's not saying what poll it is, so I don't really care. You know what I mean? But if I say, look, this is only your eyes, it'll be Mark's eyes only. So if my experience is like that, that just speaks to why so many people from both sides talk to Mark. All right. And I'm talking about both sides, guys. Like on the right, you got like TPUSA folks talking to Mark Halpern. And on the left, you got like Rachel Maddow kind of people still like talking to Mark Halpern. So, when David Plouffe or Messina go out there and make a comment like they did in 24, like Mark can call them up and say, hey, but that's bullshit, man. That's bullshit. You show me the polling, David. Show me and Mark, I'm gaslighting people, but I got to do what I got to do. So he was prepping people for this loss, Robert. He just said 8 seats. And let me tell you why he said 8 seats. Because the National Republican Senatorial Committee's own polling shows them possibly losing 8 seats in states that you and I have been talking about for months that nobody wanted to talk about. You blew the roof off when you said Nebraska. Guess what? Now they're terrified of Nebraska. All right. Ohio, Iowa, all of these states that everyone's like, oh, these are Trump plus states. And you and I have to go in constantly and show them that Iowa and Ohio swing, and they swing hard, especially in states in cycles like this, even when one party has an overwhelming registration advantage. In those scenarios, it doesn't matter. They swing. Iowa alone has the most pivot counties out of any state in the union. All right. And now they know those states are in deep, deep trouble. The polling in Michigan, in the Senate race in Michigan, it's like, you're totally right. It's overstating Mike Rogers' odds because it's overly reliant on the polling data. When I know for a fact that other internal polling, which isn't the push polls they put out and the partisan polls that they put out, which, by the way, got Michigan wrong in 24, he got scared, he shit the bed, and he gave Harris a 1-point lead at the end. Did we forget that? All right. That's the same poll everyone's using to pass around. Democrats in 2025, folks, the national mood was so bad. Just elected a guy who fantasized about killing his political opponents and their children and his wife. All right. So the fact that they would they somehow wouldn't vote for a Muslim who lies about being a doctor is just, you're living in a fantasy world. Mike Rogers couldn't put it away with Trump on the ballot. The idea he's going to put it away this time in this national mood is insane, to at least have the odds of that being the favorite. That's insane. And the private polling doesn't show that. All right. Ohio, Bernie Moreno, good candidate, better than John Huston. Barely won 3.5 points against the same guy running right now, who was a senator, who has the appeal to the white working class voters in the Ohio River Valley. When Trump won the damn state by 10 points more, Moreno underperformed Trump by 10 points in a pro-Republican environment. And so you can show me all your stupid little registration advantages all you want. Mark sees it. Independents are going in huge margins for Democrats, and Republicans don't want to vote. And by the way, some of them, Robert, if we look at I'll show it after the video, but if we look at the polling that we just did, Republicans are losing the crossover 2-1. Look at how many Republicans are saying they're going to vote on the generic ballot for Democrats. This is crazy. So to pretend like some huge registration advantage is going to somehow mute the national mood is just delusion. But you want to react to this before I finish playing it? Because you're going to laugh your ass off at the next 30 seconds of this clip. It's going to be monumental what this Republican says about what he thinks they're going to pick up. You're going to piss your pants laughing. But you want to react to this first?
I mean, yeah, for those who don't know, Mark Halperin, long time. Been a journalist, commentator, reporter, well tied into a lot of political campaigns on both sides, and they feed him inside information on what their internals are showing, and he's pretty accurate at reporting it. And all he's reporting is that the internal surveys on both sides show Republicans right now within the margin of error or behind in 8 Senate seats. And that, when he says what he says, that's what he's really saying. That's what he's referring to. Yeah. Without explicitly without revealing his sources, that's what he's talking about. And if you've followed Halpern over the years, which I have going way back, he used to write a book with his former partners now on MSNBC after every campaign, presidential campaign. It would be the inside story as to what happened in that campaign. He got Me Too'd and sort of got run out from that. But so he's often had deep inside sources with the people behind the scenes of these campaigns. They're the ones telling him this. And it's not primarily Democratic sources. He would take that with a grain of salt. These are Republican sources.
Yeah.
So it's the Republican campaign
It's the
consultants,
Republican polls, right.
Republican pollsters,
Yes.
Republican fundraisers who say they're in trouble in at least 8 Senate seats. And that tells you something about the broader context, which we'll get into in a bit, about what are the factors that cause a Senate electoral midterm to become a major turnover Senate. When you only have a third of the Senate seats up in a given midterm because of the staggered 6-year terms, what leads to big turnovers in the Senate. And we'll get into what those 4 factors are. But what he's saying is indirect evidence that the fact that they're in trouble in so many seats tells you that those 4 factors are seriously in play. And we'll get to that after the clip.
Yeah. All right, guys, pay attention. This is, again, Mark Halpern, who's not a bullshitter. And I want you to see the difference between him and a partisan bullshitter. Okay. Now you have a cautious Democrat here, which I find to be affable. All right. But the spot.
What are Democrats doing to try to make this a possibility? Or are they just sitting back and watching Donald Trump screw it up?
No, well, Democrats don't discount our ability to screw it up ourselves, right? In terms of the news out of Michigan and this debate that happened, with the 3 folks, conversations about figuring out what states go first on the sidelines of the DNC, and this autopsy that's still hanging over some folks' heads. So don't discount Democrats' ability to snap, defeat from the jaws of victory here. But again, I think part of this too, we've talked about this a long time. Democrats singularly have to keep it a referendum on Donald Trump. Talk about the corruption. Talk about the fact that the economy is not working for most Americans, while at the same time Republicans are focused on things that don't matter to the American people. If we make it a choice election, if we continue to defend God as being non-binary, we will lose this election. But the conversation you had with the great pollster on Emerson, next up, everyone watch that. It's certainly the economy. And yes, Bessent, in the cabinet meeting yesterday, yes, at the Reagan forum, we'll talk about the strength of the GDP, corporations' profits. But underlining those numbers is the fact that wages and wage growth is going down and stagnant, and the American people are feeling that right now. And that's the problem that the Republicans will have, just in terms of how people are actually feeling. Right. Not the overall indicators that we tried to sell with Bidenomics, but how people are actually feeling, and it's the economy singularly.
Larry, do you think I'm overstating the case about how dire things look right now for Republicans?
Watch this.
I do.
Yeah. Tell me why.
But my answer to your question about what Democrats are doing right now is they're nominating people like James Tellerico and Graham Plattner and Abdul El-Sayed, which is what I've been saying all along.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not the third one.
Well, the third one.
He's a juggernaut. He can't be stopped.
Just so y'all know, Michigan is not a runoff state. He can win with 33% of the vote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It is not a 50% plus one state. So, I mean, I don't see him not winning that at this point.
Here we go.
But it's what, August 4th, I want to say.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is what they're doing. Number one, the candidates matter. I can look at the same numbers, Mark, that you're looking at, and I can show you that we could pick up Michigan and Georgia.
Okay. Oh, we're done. There it is. All right, we're done, Robert. You see what I'm saying? Like, you have the Democrat come in and make a cautious argument. There is that autopsy going around. There's a lot of blame being pushed, but also you have other people who are kind of smarter and get the time we're in, like Ro Khanna Moore. And he's been like arguing a lot behind the scenes. Like, you guys are so corrupt. You couldn't even put a big, exclamation mark on the state of Michigan and the autopsy. We lost Michigan because of our support for Israel. Like that, it's literally the margin. There's 150,000 Arab voters. It's literally the margin. And Donald Trump won Dearborn. I mean, this is because they viewed him and Vance as the peace ticket. And you're so afraid of Israel and AIPAC, you can't even call that out. So there is that internal fight going on in the Democratic side right now. But for the most part, you have a very cautious Democratic consultant who seems to have learned their lesson, Robert, right? Like where Democrats have screwed this up, they've screwed it up because, they got too radical and they weren't talking about the issues that matter to the voters. this is what Republicans are doing right now. Only it's not even a matter of too radical. They're just being tone deaf and they don't care, and they're being too corrupt, and they don't care about the issues that matter to the voter. And he's saying, we got to keep this a referendum on Trump and the economy, how much things cost. And that is why they're going to roll with the Epstein class and put it all under that umbrella. And it's going to be devastating. It is devastating. You and I know this from polling work and testing messages and multiple things. And then you have the Larry Connor coming in. It's just an unserious argument. We're going to take Michigan, which is dubious at best. I mean, again, that guy could win, Robert, and they still wouldn't be favored. All right. And then you have him say that I can look at the polling data and say we're picking up Georgia. Well, folks, this just goes to show you who's Delulu here and who's not. There is zero polling to suggest that Republicans can pick up Georgia. Jon Ossoff would be a formidable opponent, formidable candidate in a neutral environment. You would have to be so delusional. You would think this is a neutral environment. It doesn't matter if it's Dooley or it's Mike Collins. It doesn't matter. Jon Ossoff is overwhelmingly the favorite. He's one of the most convincing, Democratic candidates out there right now when it comes to that argument they intend to launch. He polled off the charts. He's 8 points ahead of either candidate right now. They haven't been able to win a Senate race, Republicans, Robert, since 2000 and what? The runoff with Purdue. That was the last time they won a Senate race. Bro, that was 14. They haven't been able to win a Senate seat since that time. And the second he was up again in 2020, he and Kelly lost. So give me a break, bro. Just give me a break. And then in an environment that was supposed to be a good environment in Georgia with Raphael Warnock as the candidate. Way worse. They still get buried, and Herschel Walker loses the first round by 0.4 of a percentage point. And then he goes on to lose the runoff because Republicans do what they do all the time, which is sabotage each other and screw each other over, pretend like the DNC, the Senate Majority PAC, and the DCCC are how Democrats raise money, claim that they have a financial advantage. They don't. Warnock got outspent Herschel Walker like by $50 million or something. It was ridiculous. I mean, again, just going to let you react to that, Robert. This is where we're at now. You have two honest voices. I hate to say it, but the Democrats wanted them, telling a more fair side of it. You have Mark Halpern who's calling it straight down the middle. And then you have Larry who comes in with the fucking slop, the nonsense. We're going to win Georgia. Larry, your president is at 38% approval right now with one of the most favorable MAGA pollsters in the country. You're in a freaking la-la land. Democrats currently lead on the generic ballot by a margin we have never measured before. Never in the history. And by the way, it eclipsed only the prior record, which was measured last month for Democrats. This is so bad, brother. Take it away. This is too much delusion for me. Somebody get a Zoloft for that, man.
Yeah, I think if we step back and look at the broader Senate map, what dictates elections? So we've had popular elections for the Senate since 1918. And generally speaking, if you do a deep dive within the 1/3 of the Senate seats are up each midterm. That typically speaking, unless these four factors are present, some combination of these four factors we're going to talk about are present, that the map dictates results. In other words, is the map more favorable to the incumbent party or more opposed to it? So, Ronald Reagan did fine in the 1982 Senate map because it was very favorable, not in 1986, even though 82 was worse for him in terms of the economy than 86 was. So like we mentioned, 2018, 2022, the last two off-cycle midterm Senate races, the incumbent party in the White House did well. Again, the map favored him. So this map does favor. The reason why you have some conventional analysis that says this favors Republicans is because the map favors Republicans, namely that there are more Senate seats up that voted for Trump by a bigger margin than the nationwide margin. And that's why people looked at this map and said, well, we think Republicans are going to hold the Senate. Yep. Because, Georgia was a state Trump won by bigger than the nationwide margin. Michigan, he even won by about the same as the nationwide margin. So you had seats that, and then now that was an open seat without a Democratic incumbent in Michigan. So you looked across the map. You had some of you in Maine where Collins had always run double digits ahead of the normal Republican candidate. So the New Hampshire, you were going to have a Sununu running on the Republican candidate side. So they had hopes there. And that hadn't been close in 2024, but was close in 2016.
Yeah.
The North Carolina was trended more Republican than the national average.
Yep.
The Texas and Florida way more Republican than the national average recently.
Yeah.
Same in Ohio, same in Iowa. So you looked at the map and you looked at where Republicans were having to defend seats, and you're looking at very Trump-friendly 2024 election cycle. And if this was a normal election cycle where the map dictated it, I would say that Republicans have the edge to hold the Senate. The question is that what this cycle is? So the four factors that have changed this, where some combination of two of the four factors being present has led to a massive off-cycle midterm swing against the White House incumbent party. And the first factor is cost of living or deep recession, cost of living crisis or spikes, or at least, and this is measured by consumer sentiment of the voter. The second factor is war. It doesn't matter whether it's popular or unpopular, just war. The more unpopular, the bigger the problem, but just the presence of a war has been a problem historically.
Yes.
Then third, a major scandal, something that dominates the news cycles. That's how I interpret that. Like contrary to the media,
believe it's a scandal. They're aware of it and they believe it. That's the difference, guys. Okay.
Precisely. And you can measure this by news stories that covered it. You can measure it by public opinion surveys, range of data points out there by which you can measure this. And fourth, a belief, either a realignment that's occurring at the down ballot level, say evangelicals shifting to Republicans down ballot in 1994, or a belief that the incumbent party president has betrayed some part of his base that has disgruntled them, disappointed them. The range of examples, but Clinton arguably in 94 was guilty of this. So so you look at those cycles and you look at what, and then I dug into what Senate seats are really competitive. And my it would be baseline was that if it had run within 10 points of the national average or had been decided, any election, federal election in that state over the prior decade had been decided by single digits. That actually removes often about half of the incumbent Senate seats that are up. Often a lot of the Senate seats that are up are like Wyoming is this cycle, a place that hasn't got close to competitiveness in a long, long time. If you exclude those, what you find is any Senate seat that has been competitive at any level, at the federal level, either for the presidency or for the Senate, ignoring governorships because that's a very distinct and unique animal that's often not partisan in nationwide trends. Then on average, there have only been 4 election cycles, Senate cycles. There's been 2 that are close, but 4 that have had at least 2 of those 4 factors clearly present. And that's 1930. To the surprise of many people, really 1958 was that way. That's why there was a deep recession and there was a big scandal about labor rights and the way Eisenhower was handling it. Now, it faded by 1960, but it was real big in 58. The 1974.
Can I just tell the percentage that flipped as you go by these years? Can I say it? Because
I figured we start there and then let's go back to
okay.
And then last one, 2006. That's where you had a war, any kind of war recently being fought or being fought that the U.S. was involved in or seen as culpable of.
Yeah.
A major scandal, a recession or cost of living or employment set of economic concerns, and then some sense of betrayal or realignment in the voter base. And those 4 were 1930, 1958, 1974, and 2006. And then if we hone down to the seats that had been competitive in any prior cycle within the last decade, then the incumbent party, you can go through how many of those seats the incumbent party lost in each of those 4 cycles.
Yeah. So just go on here. I can go back because you brought up a survey of consumers, and I wanted to make sure we show that graphic. But
Yeah,
we
we're
can
going to
that in a
get to
second.
why we think
Yeah.
these 4 factors,
Let me
which
just
of these
show
4
people-
are present. But
Yeah.
here we're just 2 of the 4 were present in those
Yeah.
4 cycles. And here's what the numbers were.
And let me just and you know what? You're right. Let's just go through those numbers, and then I'll show people where things are at right now, because I feel like 06 is really comparable here. For a while people were using, well, his second term approval is better than everyone else's second term approval. And I was arguing, well, we're not looking at a consecutive second term, so you're losing that that fatigue that's there isn't the same when it comes to Trump. But now, I mean, they wanted to use this as a benchmark, so let's use it. I just think that the betrayal is the real issue here. I mean, you can't get through a poll without hearing about it, Robert. I should just go through and read some of the elaborated responses. I made a crosstab just for them so we could read what people were saying in those responses. Because it's like, people, when I say that or you say that, they seem to think that's like our opinion or something. This is what the surveys are filled with, guys, but let me just go before I do that, because that's going to be what gives people, I mean, I think, a bit of a rude awakening. Before I do that, let me just go through the first one that you brought up, 1930. All right. 70%, Robert. Colorado, Massachusetts, Iowa, West Virginia, Ohio, Minnesota, South Dakota, Kentucky, Wyoming, Oklahoma, and the surprises, of course, that year were Illinois and Kansas, which, Mark said something, they're going to be
just
states
to highlight
that nobody,
exactly in these swing cycles that we've seen anywhere from 67% to 85% of the close seats are lost by the incumbent party. The other factor that stands out is that there's usually at least 1 or 2 surprises. In other words, Senate seats that had not been competitive at all, for that the incumbent party had dominated, that they suddenly lost out of the blue, that nobody saw coming. And there's been at least one of those in each of these cycles, 1930, 1958, 1974, 2006. Some races are like, what? How did that happen? And I don't mean like a Florida or Texas that actually has been competitive in the last decade. Yeah. I mean a Montana that hasn't been. Now, you can argue Montana's been competitive at the Senate level, but not at the presidential level. Nebraska's been competitive at the Senate level, even if not at the presidential level. If you look, the surprises that I list in those are ones that had not been competitive at any level and suddenly flipped out of the blue.
So, Utah in 46, by the way. Utah. Yeah. I mean, even back then, guys, Utah was not considered.
It used to be heavily one direction or the other.
Yeah,
it would swing and stay there for long periods of time.
Yeah,
and so 50, that's where.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say. So that's where for those that don't know, like we'll get to what Senate seats fit within that map. That means there's going to be some Senate seats that we don't even mention that show up being competitive. Maybe it's a Kansas, maybe it's a South Dakota. Which in the past has been one of these surprise seats. These prairies tend to have these wild swings. Yeah. I mean, would it really be that big of a shock? It looks like South Dakota, as someone mentioned in the chat, is going to do the Nebraska strategy, where there is no Democrat. There's just an independent challenging it. South Dakota has a long anti-war streak, goes way, way, way back. Its Republicans used to be notoriously anti-war. Now they're the beacon of the establishment. So someplace on this map is going to shock everybody. And if we're right that at least 2 of the underlying 4 factors are present for this election.
Yeah, I mean, going to 58, guys, you're looking at 72% flipped. And it was New York, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, North Dakota, Arizona, California, Nevada, Wyoming, again, Minnesota, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, West Virginia, New Jersey, Connecticut, and the big surprise that year is up this year, Maine. All right. Yeah. We can just roll on a 74 and 06.
Maine, for those that don't, used to be lockstep.
Yeah.
Rock-ribbed Republican in that Eisenhower era, going all the way back to the sort of Yankee Puritan streaks of the 1930s, then began to swing Democratic in the late 60s, but for it to have swung Democrat nobody would have had it on there. It was an Eisenhower won by 35. Some of these seats that we're talking about flipped. In 1930, Republicans had won by 30 points, 25 points, and 28. That Eisenhower in 56 had won by 20 or more points, flipped 2 years later to the Democratic column. So the seats that LBJ in 64 and 66 just barely missed the cut. That he won by 30 or more, 25 or more, flipped to the Republican, flipped to the opposite party. Nixon won a lot of these seats by 25, 30, 35 points in 1972, flipped to Democrats in 1974. George W. Bush won a good number of these by comfortable margins and then flipped and lost them in 06.
That's right.
So anybody who looks and says, it was 13 points, Texas, Florida, Iowa, Ohio, seats that were 25 plus flipped 2 years later in these other examples. So that's no guarantee of anything.
Yeah, I mean, I'm dying, chomping at the bit to go to 06. But in 74, guys, you're looking at totality. What happened in 74 was 67% of them flipped.
And that was with him winning winning Kansas by half a point.
74, didn't I? Or no?
Yeah, we covered it in the last cycle because we highlighted that one. But I thought so. For the last show. But that was a seat where Republicans barely held on in Kansas. Bob Dole, no less, very popular. Barely held on in Oklahoma. Barely held on in another seat. And then they ran against the party incumbent in Pennsylvania and New York to hold on to those seats. And Nixon was already out. So that's the lowest end, is the 2/3 of the competitive seats were lost. The high end is 85%. So when you get that degree of range, what you would if 2 of the 4 factors are present in this Senate, that's really what you're analyzing as to whether or not you think it's going to be a swing election. Are at least 2 of is there a war? Is there any economic issue, cost of living, recession, or employment? Is there any kind of major scandal? And is there any sense of betrayal or realignment within the voter base? And I would argue this is what's unique about this cycle. This is the first Senate election midterm in American history where I would argue all 4 factors are present. You haven't had one where all 4. Your closest one you could argue is a degree 06 and 74. But again, you didn't. You could argue in 74 you had a major scandal. We just got out of the Vietnam War, and we had a cost of living crisis. But Nixon wasn't perceived as betraying his base or causing a realignment. So you had 3 of the 4 factors. In 1930, major depression that was ongoing, and there was a range of controversies and scandals concerning Hoover, but there wasn't a war at the time that was building about 5-10 years out. And so you didn't have all 4 factors present, and yet it was a disaster for the incumbent party. Here you have the cost of living crisis, as every voter group is reporting, and we'll show you the voter data on that. It doesn't matter whether it's Gallup's polling, the Consumer Board's polling, University of Michigan's polling, or Richard's polling. It's showing bad news on the economic front across the board. Then the second aspect, is there a war? There's no doubt there's the war, but not only is there a war, this is literally the most unpopular war in American history.
That's what I was going to bring up, Robert. Here's the difference with this example. In 06, it got unpopular by that time. But when he sold it, Bush sold it, right? And you can go back even to 46, right? War became unpopular later, or we were coming out of it. Of course, you have the Korean War later on in the 50s. But this is the first example when we have a president not even try to sell an unpopular war at all. And then the war just continuously, there was that rally around the flag effect. It still never got positive with us. And we were one of the most favorable ones for Trump. We were for the Iran war period, except for the ones that were just straight up bullshit guys and everybody laughed at. All right. And we know who you are. If you had this military action positive, you fudged the poll. Okay. And we know that happened. By the way, keep your eyes on the Wall Street Journal soon. Okay. That's all. I'm going to leave it there. It's going to be huge. And this is part of the second thing, which is corruption. You notice Mark Halpern brought corruption. He brought up, what did he call it? What did he call it with the family?
Something all the bucks.
Bucks. Yeah. He's starting to bring it up now. And that's because a lot of there are people who are starting to test the awareness of, some of these going to be scandals if Democrats take over, which I think is a given at this point. And
then you already have the Epstein files, which is one of the most dominant scandal news outside of Watergate and the Teapot Dome scandal in American history.
And it's created an entire narrative now. It is branded now. I just tried to have a nice, friendly phone call earlier, right? I don't want to blow up anything here.
it was an attempt to be friendly again. And it didn't go well because nobody has the balls to tell him the truth. That's what it comes to. That's what it comes down to. I don't know why you would expect me to say anything but the truth. And I just like, you know what, and I tweeted it for a reason. I was tweeting publicly what my takeaway was, which is that a big problem with this White House is that nobody has the balls to tell Donald Trump that the country right now thinks that he's Israel's bitch. He looks like a pussy. All right. And I know my wife hates that word, but there's no other way to put it. I'm talking like a real American right now. The president looks weak. He looks like he's BB's bitch. That's what the country thinks of him. So come out and try to say something like, oh, but we forced them to get into a new ceasefire, to observe a new ceasefire. You mean because they broke the last one? You mean because they sabotaged the last peace process? Again, like the country views you as just being walked around on a leash by Bibi like a bitch. That's what it is. And that's like, so this whole Epstein class narrative, man, it's so brilliant because it encompasses the cost of living issues and challenges that Americans are facing. I mean, it's like, hey, there's this group of people, by the way, Trump's protecting them. He did protect them. And they are killing you. You can't live and you can't make ends meet because of these guys, you know? And the worst part about it is that Democrats are knee deep in it too, but it doesn't matter. It's brilliant. They got it. They have the upper hand with the American public now in this narrative. And then it also explains the inexplicable. No, excuse me. The inexplicable, which is, and again, I tried to explain this to them. Donald Trump was viewed as a strong, decisive, independent leader. That's what he was viewed at. And now the American voter is like, what happened to him? The only way it makes sense to them is that, well, you got him. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the only way it makes sense to the American public. And they just can't get it through their heads. They're like, oh, that's just ridiculous. The president is totally in charge. Look. And then it's like, you know, it's like, oh, that's real convincing, you know, but to the public who's looking at the bird's eye view, you know, that 50,000 foot view, it's like, what happened to my guy who didn't care about anything anybody said, whatever pressure anybody put on him, stepped over the DMZ, bro, into North Korea? What happened to this guy? He didn't give a shit about anybody. Nobody could call, even when he moved from the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. You have any idea? I mean, Robert knows, but folks, if you don't know at home, the pressure that gets put onto a U.S. president, they all promised it. None of them ever did it because the immense pressure put on you when you try to make that move. And then Trump was just like, I'm doing it. So you have this like view that the people voted for this guy, and this is what they wanted back. And now he's just being dog walked by a country of 9 million. And the only way it makes sense is that, like, oh, right, that Epstein thing. Now it makes sense. It's brilliant. And it is working. It's not a matter of whether it will or won't work. It is working because when Republicans don't want to admit it to themselves, it's the only way that voters can make sense of what's going on. It's the only way they can explain the question that everyone in America is asking. And that question, pardon my language, cover your kids' ears, is what the fuck happened to Donald Trump? That is the question. And only 19%, let me bring it up now. Only, do I have it up? Because we can start looking at some data now, guys. I mean, it is what it is. If we go to Trump's approval rating, where are you? Okay, that's just absolutely disgusting on the issues. But where's his approval rating chart, his trend? Here we go. This shows you approval and disapproval total in the darkest of bars, and then the smaller, you know, less bold lines on the graph, coded, of course, by their parent color, tell you the degree strongly, somewhat. You can see here, Robert, I mean, less than 20% of the country strongly approves of Donald Trump. Strongly. So, you know, this is like, so another reason why some of the social media posts are just insane. Like, trust the president. Like, I hate to tell you, in case you didn't notice, guys, like, if you're in that 19%, you need to take your head out of your ass. Like, maybe you don't understand that there are scandals that people see as scandals, right? But the rest of the country does, right? So the problem you had with Obama's IRS scandal, for instance, is that independents really didn't care.
They didn't see it, and they really didn't care. It was like, whatever, and they moved on. Now, there were other things they did see as scandalous in the Obama era, which is why Allen and his stupid keys, were wrong in 16. Well, that part of his keys were wrong. But there were scandals that people did view to be scandals. You can't let yourself get wrapped up in your own framing biases. Well, they're not scandals to me, but they are to the greater public. 19% approve, guys. Oh, you don't even see it. It's up on the board now. They're 19%. So when he sends out stupid White House, whoever runs the White House X or social media operation period needs to be fired. All right. To put out something like trust the plan is so incredibly stupid. It's not even funny. Are you aware of who your audience is? Trust appeals don't normally work with Americans in general. They're not trusting of politicians, political figures, power, the establishments, all of that. They're knee-jerk reflexively against trusting out of why? Because you told me to. That's how Americans are. That's their nature to begin with. But to ask for to make a trust appeal when your approval rating is 38, 39% is stupid. Of course, it's never going to work. Your target audience is what? 19% of the public. Why would you even send some stupid shit like that? You should be sister soldiering every day and basically bitching Netanyahu in public. That's his only way out of this. He needs to humiliate Benjamin Netanyahu. Ben Gvir just goes out publicly and says, it's time for us to tell Trump to shove it. Are you kidding me? I mean, Robert, it's just, look at the intensity index, bro, in purple. Look at it, bro. I'm like G. Elliott Morris over here. I had to reset the vertical axis because Trump broke the chart. I literally went off the chart.
Yeah. And he broke it negatively, not positively.
Yes, negatively. Not in a good way.
Yeah, exactly. I think you look at the four factors. If you look at the economy, you look at voters, University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Survey.
Yeah, let's bring that up before we bring up
is the worst.
This is
one of the worst it's ever been. So you look at them, their personal finances dropping like a rock, their business conditions dropping like a rock, their inflation, you don't want that to go up. That's a number. That's expectation you want to go down. That's their expectation. Inflation will go up. And so what you're seeing is long-term expectations negative, short, medium-run expectations very negative. And that's the University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Survey. Then you have the Confidence Board, which does their own study. And they find similarly, you can see that blue number is dropping like a rock to something we haven't seen. It's even worse than it was at the bottom of the COVID pandemic panic.
Yeah.
You're looking at numbers that look like Obama era, that look like
the
global
leading index, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's the leading index of what they expect going forward. That consumer sentiment is very negative. So it's not just, there are some people trying to say, oh, it's just the University of Michigan. No, and by the way, that's the University of Michigan. It was independents that were so negative with them. In fact, independents are slightly more negative than the average is. So it's not just Democrats dragging it down; it's independents being very negative. And then if you go to the Gallup survey, you see similar things when they're listing
with that survey for years, guys. There was this, and they even wrote about it. There was this split between parties in a manner that we had not seen before, but it was the reverse, actually, of what you were thinking may be the case right now. Democrats were living in their own universe since the Obama era. They would say that the economy was doing great and, everything's going well. Yeah, my wages are up, when everyone else, including independents and Republicans aligned together, were saying you're full of shit. You're living in another world. Independents have been with Republicans since the Obama era on the Conference Board and the Consumer Sentiment Index. And now that's gone. That is true even in the first Trump term. They may not have liked Trump or some of the things he'd said or how his, attitudinally his appeal. They may not have liked it, but they said, you know what? The economy's great under this guy. And they always were aligned with Republicans. This is the first time since the Obama era we have seen independents break with Republicans, and not only break with them, Robert, like you said, they're in lockstep. And then, by the way, there's large percentages of Republicans in those surveys saying things are bad, like ours. But go ahead.
Oh, exactly.
Wanted
So
to point
the
that out.
very, very negative perceptions on the economy, and then Gallup, when they ask people what you're very concerned with, it's economic numbers plus healthcare and housing, and they're at higher numbers than they've been in
Sound
a long
familiar?
time. Yeah, exactly. They're saying
Exactly what we
the
said.
job market sucks, the cost of living is way out of control. We can't afford gas prices or energy prices. We can't afford housing prices. We can't afford healthcare prices. So you've got a cost of living crisis in voter public perception at multiple levels that isn't limited to just an issue. Like I hear people say, well, don't worry, the gas price will be back to normal in the fall. Aside from the fact that they're highly likely to be wrong about that economically, it's just one of many factors voters are deeply concerned with. That on the cost of living side of the aisle, they expected Trump to return it to pre-COVID. He has not. They expected him to return job prospects back to the pre-COVID growth line. He has not. They expected him to return the wage growth, real wage growth, to back to pre-COVID. He is not. And instead, housing and healthcare are worse. And he has said things like, I don't care about what Americans are worried about financially. And I get it was meant to be a different statement, a different context. You still are never stupid enough to say that. You don't say the words, I don't care about the midterms.
Jesus.
You don't say the words, Americans don't have
Oh my
talent.
God.
You don't say the words, I don't want your vote if you are concerned about the Epstein files. This isn't 8D chess. It's political stupidity.
That's all.
It's Trump not smart, Trump stupid. It's Trump dumb with a B, which most Americans have always known was part of the word dumb. Instead of him doing these dumb lectures about this. Well, did you know the word dumb actually includes B? Oh my goodness.
Brother.
It's what happens when you have crazy nitwit grandpa in the White House. So, but the
that's
American
what Mark is talking about, though. Again, the reference
that's the public perception. That's
what Mark is talking about. Yes,
correct. So, economy negative by any metric, and some of the worst numbers we've ever seen. Now, war, is there a war? There's no doubt there's a war. It's dominating the news cycle for the last every single hour of every single day for the last 3 months, like we said it would. It would suck all the oxygen out of the room. Nobody remembers the tax refunds anymore because all of it got sucked up into war.
Nobody
and
cares.
He can't get out of it. So, and as Richard pointed out, the most unpopular war throughout the whole history of the war in American history. That's the reality, not 100% of MAGA nonsense and gibberish that the president convinces himself of on a random notice. This is the most unpopular war ever, and it is getting more unpopular because unlike past wars, this war is deeply intertwined with the scandal problem and the economy problem because it's perceived as being fought for Israel, and that connects to the Epstein files, and it's perceived as causing a price spike in terms of the supply chain and energy costs that goes into everything else in terms of fuel and food costs. So
totally.
So you have an integration of the war with the cost of living crisis and a major scandal. By every objective metric, the Epstein files is a major scandal, and it's only the beginning of the scandals. As drip, 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 they will put out information about all the fraud, all the corruption, all the sweetheart deals, whether done at antitrust, done to betray Maha. You're a big chemical company, even a foreign chemical company, and you want to dump glyphosate onto people's products and into the food supply that's causing cancer with kids. So that's leading to lawsuits all across the country. You want the Justice Department to take your side. Just make a big donation to the right people, and boom, they're right there. You want the state of New York to be advanced, that they can discriminate against you on religious reasons for objecting to the vaccine mandates. And you don't want the Ketam fraud case against Pfizer pursued related to the COVID vaccine. Just make a big donation. Boom, you got what you want. You want an antitrust case shut down, closed, taken care of, disposed of. All you got to do is make the right donation to grifter, criminal, unregistered felon lobbyist, the Mike Davis and his pal Will Chamberlain, and boom, you got what you want, Live Nation. You got what you want, HPE. You got what you want, Larry Ellison, Paramount. You want Warner Brothers. You want CNN. You want CBS. You want TikTok. We'll give all of them to you. And that doesn't even deal with the pay for play, with the pardons, the pay for plays for fraud case dismissals, the pay for play for have every single Foreign Corruption Practices Act case closed, which is what they did. So the Epstein files linked in with all of that corruption, linked in with the war, linked in with the economy. And then last, but definitely not least, is there a part of Trump's voter base that feels betrayed? Well, it's basically everybody you could signify it, and Thomas Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene, the people that were deeply loyal to those two members of Congress that represented that wing of the party, anti-war, libertarian-leaning, fiscally conservative, budget-oriented, the food freedom-oriented, medical freedom-oriented. They crushed. They told everybody, you're not welcome in the Republican Party. We don't want you in the Republican Party. And guess what? They're going to accommodate you. They'll be happy to be your huckleberry. So you got all four factors. You're spelling disaster. I think the minimum number of Senate seats Republicans lose is 5, and the maximum number is more like 12. 8 is the median.
Can you imagine that, brother?
Oh, yes.
That would be an listen, let me just, before we go on, let me just read to cover a wide territory that you just covered. I'm going to read some of the elaborated responses so people can understand, and let me see. Did I put it up just so everyone knows I'm not full of shit? Okay, here they are. A lot of things that are happening in America have nothing to do with us, and we're not getting any help. A lot of what Republicans are doing are actually distractions from Trump's own criminal activities. They have no concern for this country or our citizens. Whereas the other one I thought was particularly good, as whether or not you said there was a by the way, guys, the overall sentiment score is -2, which means very negative. So like you could ask me to go find a positive remark, but I'm telling you, and I'll read one, but I'm telling you, when the overall sentiment score, which is text analysis, obviously, is done, when it comes back the highest negative value you could possibly get, it means I actually have to go searching for a positive comment in order to find one for you. Everything that Trump has done is to divert us from the Epstein files. Isn't the point of American government to be focused on American citizens? All they are doing is making us look pathetic. Offensive comments about the war, and it's all distractions since the toddler dictator returned back to power in 2025. All this administration is concerned about is oil and lining their own pockets. All Trump wants is glory and power. Don't give a damn about us here at home. Although I don't really agree, I think they are still focusing on the right amount of domestic and foreign affairs. Oh, there you go. There you go. Let's keep going. Some Trump basically dabbling in other countries. America first is most important. America first, not foreign affairs. Here it is. America first, my aching ass. We the people are last on the current regime's agenda. By the way, that is a boomer Trump voter. I looked him up. All right. Americans have problems just like any other country. Those need to be solved too, you want me to keep reading? Because I can keep reading all fucking day. There's one about Laura Loomer and some of the special favors he thinks that Laura Loomer has done for President Trump. And that's why we're in this war with Israel, because of that. I kid you not. That's where we're at right now, folks. This is bad. This isn't, oh man, things aren't looking so good. Maybe we have a few more months. This is 5-alarm fire shit, man. We've been sending up flares in the sky for months. Nobody paid attention. The shit's going down. No Mayday even went out. And these idiots are out there going, stop being a mannequin.
Exactly. And so
I should read more, bro. They're really good.
In terms of the four factors that drive what Richard's identifying is that they all bring up some version of those four factors, or in some cases, all four together. That feeling betrayed, feeling the economy stinks, feeling the war is stupid, feeling the scandal is driving things, that you've got some aggregate. And what's unique is that these four kind of fit together. They think he betrayed his voter base for the Israel lobby, which is why he hid the Epstein files, which is why he's in the Iran war, which is why the economy is underwater and he's not focused on it.
That's so right.
The fact they tie these all together makes it much, much worse. For Republicans running, and Trump has amplified the problem by endorsing mostly establishment candidates in almost every race, taking out the more populist challengers where people could feel they had some representative hope. That, if you're a big Massey supporter, you want a Republican House because Massey then has more power. Same with Marjorie Taylor Greene. But now they're gone. the Nancy Macy's trying to prevent from running from governor. He may turn the governorship over to a Democrat in South Carolina with some of these dumb decisions. He might do the same thing in Florida. People are confusing his appeal with a new part of a base, something that wasn't part of his original base, which are boomer partisan Republicans. These are not all boomers. These are just the boomers who are identified as partisan Republicans, who have been who loved Mitt Romney, who loved John McCain, who loved George W. Bush. That's his new base. That's his new base of support. They're over the age of 60, lifelong. And what does that mean? It means they're the highest propensity voter group in closed Republican primaries of anybody. That means he can move the needle inside a primary. Now, contrary to what everybody thinks, he had nothing to do with Paxton winning. He didn't even endorse until almost all the early voting was over, and Paxton won the early vote as much as he won any vote. He saw Paxton was going to win, even if he endorsed Cornyn. So he, at the last minute, his ego forced him to jump in for Paxton. He should have just kept his mouth shut, because then at least he wouldn't have burned bridges. Paxton was always going to win. So just keep quiet and don't burn bridges in the Senate. He compounded both. All he did was burn a bridge with the Senate, but you have all the Benny Johnsons and all those running around saying, "Oh, it's all a Trump's mojo." You got Razor Fist, who can't count. Razor Fist. Having boomer conservatives dominate closed primaries does not translate into boomer partisan conservatives, John McCain lovers, being a majority of the November vote.
Not even a majority of boomers. This is
they're not exactly. That's a key point.
Boomer.
Independent boomers are trending the opposite direction.
Totally.
The Democratic boomers overwhelmingly the opposite direction. In fact, Republicans are going to lose the boomer vote in the fall.
They're going to lose.
Winning the boomer conservative partisan Republican Fox News voter base helps you in closed primaries. It hurts you with everybody else, because every other voter constituency, including other boomers who listen and watch podcasts, don't like those guys, don't like those people, don't like the candidates they put up. But they're going to have to.
His candidates are doing better in the early vote, by the way. Now it's like this graph I have on the screen has been completely vindicated and confirmed by early voting behavior, which we know goes more rhino establishment boomer Republican in the early vote than it does on election day, which is much more MAGA. That's why you see Trump's his candidates doing better in the early vote, guys, and actually in many cases losing the election day vote. Let me just say before I go on to this and tell you what this means, what Robert said is true. All right. The Cornyn endorsement was written up the night that Cornyn outperformed in the first thing. What happened between the initial primary and the runoff was a lot of Republicans were turned off by what was essentially a complete attempt to assassinate Ken Paxton's character. It was a beyond the pale level dirty campaigning. And there was immediately polling detected. There was this blowback against Cornyn, where there were vote switchers who were Cornyn in round one going to Paxton. By the time things were said and done, I mean, I could just tell you, Robert knows, we handed them a 59-36 Paxton poll. And what it basically showed was that even if Trump endorsed Cornyn before he gained like, I want to say like 4-6 points with Trump's endorsement. Paxton, Cornyn didn't even, he pulled up and Paxton came down a little, but it wasn't even close to enough. Like the risk of being embarrassed and then losing because he endorsed a rhino was not only real. I mean, it was the likely scenario. Paxton was going to win anyway. So that's why he did that. But what this shows up here is that MAGA is not MAGA anymore. I mean, I can prove this. This is verified. That is what I said on Tucker, brother, demonstrably true statement. Tucker did you see him laughing when I was rattling off these numbers? He was literally laughing because it's suicide. He's laughing at the prospect of, to cater to the Fox boomer, they committed suicide with not only their own coalition, but everybody knows, like, the Mitt Romney argument doesn't win a general election. And that's what Trump has been relying on at this point with some of these endorsements. 18 and 29. If you were a Trump voter, 18 to 29 Republican in November of 2024, on November 5th, 55.3% of you said that you were MAGA or America First, right? Same thing at that time. 36.6% now
That's how far down it's declined. If you were a millennial, basically, or just under with the 45s cut out of this age bucket, but 30 to 44, you were the most MAGA, the most America First voter in this country. If you were a Trump millennial, 63.6% said, I am MAGA, I'm America First. Now it's 46.9%. 45 to 64, Gen X was 48.4%. It's declined by about 5 points to 43.1. And 65 plus was the only group who did not say that they were majority MAGA. They 56.4% of them, or no, I'm sorry, in November of 2020, 45.2% of them in November when Trump was elected the day before, less than a majority, said that they were America First MAGA. In fact, slightly more of them said, no, I'm a traditional Republican. All right. Now that's 56.4% saying that they are MAGA. The only group that got more MAGA is the old white person. That's it. All right. And it's funny too, because you can see it even with race, which we added here in November when Trump was elected, only 42.8% of his vote that was white said I'm MAGA. Now it's 47.7% because of the older whites doing it. Meanwhile, look at Black, Hispanic, and Asian and other all collapsed. Hispanics used to be the most MAGA out of all of them. 53.3% said I'm MAGA, man. I'm America First. It's now only 42.9%. I mean, this is just fucking sad to look at this.
Yeah.
You know, part of my language, guys, you know, I'm trying to watch my language a little bit more, but you spend 10 years studying something. You know, you spend 10 years spending, you know, contrary to what these my wannabe people, pundit dissenters say, I have spent money polling the Trump coalition. I have not made money polling the Trump coalition. I have spent a mini fortune, Robert, of my own money. You know that. Just because this phenomena deserved to be fairly measured and to be fairly studied. And it's sad because I could have added area in here, bro, and you would have saw throughout different regions. You would have saw through, you know, areas like rural, suburban, urban. Urban got so much more MAGA, right? And why did that matter to me? Because society is more stable when we have more consensus. And what MAGA was doing, or I would say America First was doing, was bridging the urban and rural divide. It was bringing like these non-white, especially younger, non-white urban populations in ideological alignment, or at least attitudinal alignment with rural America. And they were saying together, you know what? Maybe you're not the enemy. They fucked us. They're the enemy. And that is the ruling class worst nightmare. And Trump has squandered that. He has squandered that. And it will be to the great detriment of the stability of our society. And it's sad to watch.
Yeah, what you have is an interruption of a potential realignment and a reversal in a perception of betrayal. And so by the public opinion data, which has a wide range of other data points in support of it, whether you're talking about record lows of people having personal savings because they've been heavily dipping into personal savings, drastic rise in credit card debt
because boards. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry,
if you look at, all the conference boards indicators are really troublesome and problematic. Yeah. The housing and healthcare costs getting unaffordable and inaccessible, and a belief that Trump doesn't care about it because he was dumb enough to say he wants to keep housing prices inflated for that part of his boomer base. The focus on the stock market, when the stock market by almost every indicator, Buffett indicator, other indicator, is the most overvalued and built for a bubble since 1929. I mean, that's how mispriced it is currently by a wide range of whether you're talking about the Shiller Index, the Buffett indicator, a range of indicators. It is the most, when you talk about lack of breadth, in other words, that almost all the money in the stock market's going to a few stocks. The average stock is actually down over the last 18 months since Trump was elected. But Trump talking about it all the time. What happens if that bubble goes pop and all the other troubles? So the economy bad, war issues bad, scandal issues bad, sense of betrayal, all four factors present in the public opinion. And so we can take a look at the Senate map. What that means is about at least a 75% chance on average of any competitive seat, a seat that's been decided by single digits in the last decade, flipping sides. Democrats holding anything that's closer competitive, because that's the other thing that is highlighted. I think they've only lost 2 seats ever in these 5 election cycles in 1930, 1948, 1946, 1958, 1974, and 2006. And if you added ones that were close, like 1994 and 1966, you're talking, you would expect 2/3 of the open seats to be lost. You'd expect them to hold every other seat. They've only lost 2 seats in those 5 elections. That was a democratically held seat, and they only lost those narrowly, by the way. So in fact, it's more likely that there'll be some surprise seat we haven't even heard about that the party loses. So the conference board, a lot of key factors, negative.
I want to
negative. So if we go to the Senate map, we can go through which ones would be considered competitive based on that within within 10 points at either the Senate or presidential level since 2012. Now, one other factor we should note is in the betrayal or missed realignment is that it's not even.
That's right. It's
disproportionately young. It's disproportionately Hispanic and Black. And consequently, where you find disproportionate Hispanic voters, Black voters, or youth voters, and then I would say also ideologically, anti-war libertarian voters, like you get in the places like Maine and Alaska, like you get in the upper Midwest and the industrial Midwest. Expect the swing to be greater there than it is in, say, Arkansas or Wyoming. So that's where the seats that are the closest up for grabs are the seats that fit that category of having, Texas and Florida, disproportionate Hispanic vote. In Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Mississippi, if you want a surprise, don't be too surprised if Mississippi is close on election night. She's never been well liked.
I've been warned about this, man. Mississippi's a problem. You get it in the wrong year, you're going to lose it. You have low working class white turnout. You have a pissed off Republican base. You have independents going for Democrats by upwards of 20 or more points. You could lose Mississippi. And that happened almost with the governor's election. He was saved by a hair's breadth. But the problem is, the more the white population in southern states becomes more educated and it becomes, frankly, even older to some degree, and less of the electorate, the less by margin Republicans can expect to win them by. And it's simply not enough. If you're not making any gains with Black Southern voters like Trump did in 24, you cannot offset that. And it's that simple. This is what happened in Georgia too. And everyone would have thought Georgia was going to be safe forever, Robert. In the examples that you have, I was chomping at the bit in 06, where 75% flipped. We forgot to mention that. Nevada was a flip. And, by the way, Maine also, but Nevada, Ohio, Missouri. By the way, George Bush won Missouri fairly easily. He won Virginia that year. But Montana and Nevada, that was the beginning of the end. That wasn't just a surprise. That was a beginning of the end for Republican dominance in that state until Donald Trump just won it back in 24.
Yeah, I mean, to give people an idea, the Republican incumbent seats that have not had a single-digit federal race in their state for the last decade that are up for the Senate this cycle are Idaho, Wyoming, South Dakota, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Mississippi, Tennessee, and I think that's it, unless I'm missing any other. I think those are the only 7 truly safe seats, because Alabama had a close seat in a swing election in 2017. Mississippi has had several close single-digit. Exactly. Single close digit. So people think of Alabama as not close. People think of Mississippi as not close, but they've actually had some surprisingly within the single digit range kind of seats. And the incumbent senators.
Roy Moore was a bad candidate, right? That's what people will say.
And that's what you have in Mississippi. Is she. She's a terrible candidate. She runs 15, 16 points behind Trump regularly in terms of margins out of Mississippi.
Now add that to depression. Add that to, because this is what happened in Alabama. It wasn't just like Roy Moore would have won if Republicans still would have come out to vote for him, but so many just didn't. They couldn't bring themselves to come out. Robert, I'm telling you, and I know it's anecdotal, but I polled the state too. I'm telling you, 20% of my very red neighbors plan on voting for Roy Cooper.
There, and that is almost all driven by anger. That's
Right.
almost and that's if they vote at all. You know what I mean? Like at this point, it may be better for Michael Watley if they don't vote. You know what I mean? Like that's
Right.
you know what I'm saying? He's cooked, bro. Look, notice North Carolina is not even a battleground state on this map. The lead is so, and I'll tell you, man. I mean, for all the other people who are like, well, we've seen North Carolina do this with polls, but you didn't see it happen in 22, did you? No. Ted Budd was ahead the entire time of Sherry Beasley. Number two, I just literally nailed Donald Trump's vote share to the decimal in North Carolina in 24. I almost nailed Harris's. I was a little off, 0.2, I think, or 0.4 because of higher third-party vote share because of the online sample of that panel. I mean, the online component of that poll. We never did that. Even when Cunningham was running 11 points ahead of Tillis and then it closed at the last minute. Well, guess what? Not in our polling. Not in our polling. It would be even or it was Tillis +2 the whole time. So the fact that we have a Cooper +8 right now and Roy Cooper's winning independents by 22 points this is a bloodbath. And I have a widget, which is cool, Robert, to show you like how bad that kind of damage. Like if they lose these Senate races, Robert, the damage down ballot is brutal. Like, go ahead though. I mean, I'll put it up after this.
I don't, I don't see a surprise out of Idaho or Wyoming. The places, these otherwise seats that should be safe, where might the surprise come from? The one to two upsets that comes in these seats that have not been competitive for a decade plus. It'll either be South Dakota, Kansas, Mississippi, or I'll throw in a fourth one that should otherwise be safe. I think Oklahoma and Arkansas are safe, even though I'm not a Tom Cotton fan. The Oklahoma has such rhino people, but I just don't see competitive.
There are rhinos there though, so he's gonna
And the evangelical boomer base is strong in those constituencies too. But the places that I could see a surprise, totally like a huge underdog, somebody I would list as 10-1 normally or 20-1 normally. But because these big cycles tend to have at least one or two big shockers, it would be and states, by the way, I don't put into the shock category because they have had competitive races. Nebraska's had competitive races. Montana's had competitive races. So the ones that have not had competitive recent races within single digits that I think, and again, that's why I don't put Alabama in. Democrats actually won it in 2017, is amongst Mississippi, Louisiana, and South Dakota. Of those three states, I could see one of those three being a shock surprise.
South Dakota.
Yeah, because South Dakota, they got a smart independent running. It's an inexpensive state to compete in. There's no Democratic candidate. They have a history of being anti-war. They've been a surprise state in the past. Louisiana, because Letlow's really not liked. And if she's the one that wins within a big part of Maha and people forget, Louisiana used to be, I mean, it's elected Democratic governors.
There's still a Democratic registration edge in Louisiana. People don't know
exactly. Still a Democratic registration. Long, deep history of a populist.
Mary Landrieu was just a senator from
exactly.
not long ago, guys.
The right candidate could pull a surprise there. And then definitely Mississippi is a state I would not go to sleep on. I think it's going to be a single-digit race either way. So she's just not well liked, and Roger Wicker is a lunatic. It's the old country club South there that doesn't connect anyway. And so I think that those would be of the surprise seats. If you want to take a long shot, 5-1, 10-1 long shot, it would be Mississippi, Louisiana, or South Dakota. The other seats that are within the traditional realm of being competitive seats are Montana, Nebraska, Kansas, Texas, Iowa, Ohio, Florida, Maine, Alaska. All of those are places that fit within traditional, along with places like Michigan and whatnot. And so, what you would expect out of those dozen or so potentially competitive seats, you would expect at least 8 or 9 to be lost. So, I mean, that's where you expect North Carolina to be gone. You expect Maine to be gone. You'd expect Ohio to be gone.
Let's stop playing around with this, bro. I'm so sick of this. Can we turn this thing? Oh,
yeah, there you go.
Oh, create your own map. Thank you. I can't deal with this anymore, bro. Oh, I got to start from the beginning. Okay, let's start with the RCP ratings. But then I'm going to go ahead and I'm turning Democrat, leans Democrat in Georgia. It frankly should be likely at this
Georgia
point.
Democrat, North Carolina Democrat, Maine Democrat, Ohio Democrat, Alaska Democrat. I think those 5, there's been consistent Democratic leads in a range of internal surveys and other public surveys.
This
Susan
is where
Collins
they're down in their own polls right now. I got to tell
yes,
you.
correct.
That's
Their own.
already it. They
When
already
he
got
says
it.
8
Already
races, when Mark Halpern says 8 races, he means those 5 plus the ones he's not publicly talking about are Texas leaning Democrat in internal polls, because that's what happens when you spend $150 million on the Republican side to beat the living heck out of Paxton in suburbs with independent voters.
Like this could happen. What I just did right here could absolutely happen. And that would be
Iowa, same dynamic. If Jim Carlin doesn't get the nomination, if Ashley Hinson does, there's going to be a very strong populist candidate, looks like, on the Democratic side for governor and senator. Expect Trump endorsed the wrong person for governor. Again. He did this all over the place. That made the party weaker.
We had a conversation about Ohio too, which I'll tell you about in a second.
Yeah. Oh, correct. So you lose Maine, you lose North Carolina, you lose Ohio, you lose Iowa, you lose Alaska. You've already lost the Senate rather comfortably at that point.
It's gone. Oh, it's gone. Good. It's done.
You don't have much chance, contrary to what you've seen in the polls, of picking up Michigan or Georgia. And then you have Montana, Nebraska, Kansas, South Carolina, and Florida, all which are, by historical metrics, should lose three of the 5.
Yeah, I think even if, let's say, what can we throw in here that could be an X factor? I don't think Trump running around. I mean, he's got to do it, but I don't think it has the impact it had in 18, because the base fracture is real this time. It was not real in 18. Some of the suburban white women who voted for Donald Trump soured on him, but that's just about it. That they can tolerate that and still generate enough turnout among boomers and working class men to be able to stem off a real bloodbath. And that's what they did in 18. And they actually ended up picking up 2, which was the best performance for an incumbent party since JFK. If they would have won Arizona, which would have required allowing Kelly Ward to run her race the way she wanted to, instead they got McSally, which ended up being a disaster. And she didn't generate base turnout, and she lost barely. I'm telling you, Kelly Ward would have won that race. I'm telling you outright, no problem saying that. And the Republicans lost that. Otherwise, they would have done the best of any incumbent party since FDR. You would have had to go back to FDR for a first-term incumbent midterm.
Well,
but
I was saying we know which 2 seats Halpern's talking about.
We do.
That are the 8 seats that are behind, and the other 2 are Nebraska and South Carolina. South Carolina, because Graham is in trouble if he wins the primary, as it increasingly looks like he will. I mean, I hope there's a runoff. I hope Lynch campaigns more effectively than he has so far. But the reality is, we've given free advice to tons of people. And some people, a lot of people have, they want to go with a traditional campaign. God bless. That tends not to work out. Now, it'll be very embarrassing for Turning Point if Lindsey Graham wins his renomination. They need to at least be perceived as doing more than just on their show. They need to have a massive youth get out the vote operation in South Carolina. If that vote doesn't turn out, people are going to start thinking Turning Point's kind of an empty weight, that, they can piggyback off the Republican Party or Trump, but that if they act independently, they no longer have the juice that they did when Charlie was alive. They really need to force Graham into a runoff, and they really need to get a good turnout then in the primary and in the runoff amongst younger voters. They need to be heavy on the ground. They have, there has been, from people I've talked to in South Carolina, they haven't heard much from Turning Point this cycle. So I know that they've said that they're going to be very active against Graham. Their prior excuse was they didn't want to get in between Dans and Lynch. Dans is no longer in, so you don't have that excuse anymore. If you want to make up for the perception of some of your audience that you betrayed Thomas Massey, if you want to get past that, then do God's work and take out the senator that said had to be defeated by Charlie Kirk, because there's no excuses on that one. You got different excuses you can offer and proffer on Massey and some of these other races. There'll be no excuses if Lindsey Graham coasts back in. The Turning Point will be seen as weak, inept, incompetent, ineffective, or not really dedicated to what they're publicly claiming. They got to take out Graham. Republicans benefit if they take out Graham. If Graham wins that nomination, I think Graham loses the general election because you're seeing libertarians. What woke up a lot of independent third-party would-be candidates was Massey's loss. You got all these people saying now, I'm going to run as a libertarian in my House race, my Senate race, my city council, whatever it is.
Mode. They're in full bore sabotage mode. And
correct. And of course they're going to be. It's going to be payback time. And you can't screen. This is what Richard and I have been talking about. It's like whatever you think about Thomas Massey, it is stupid to burn bridges within part of your own base. All you're going to do is get them enraged at you and figure out a way. Was the mistake Democrats made towards Ralph Nader.
Neocon foreign agent.
In the 90s.
Replace him with the neocon foreign agent.
Al Gore wouldn't even meet with Ralph Nader. He wouldn't even meet. He was like, to you, Ralph Nader. Ralph was like, okay, maybe I'll run for president. Let's see how that looks. And then Gore was like, But now Republican establishment people are doing the same. But this is the reality. So I know in Nebraska, almost every internal they've done, the Republican is behind. And this is a guy who barely won in 2024.
-2, bro. -2. I know. I saw it. -2. 48-46. They're down.
Exactly. And Graham, you've seen it from your own data. If Graham gets the nomination, there's so many people that don't want to vote for him that will either vote Democrat or vote Libertarian. And Libertarians won't run if they think Democrat would get more votes otherwise. I mean, that's how anti-Graham that voter group is and dedicated to seeing his defeat no matter what. So I think both. And then the biggest nightmare for me personally would be if some prick like Vindman became elected United States Senator from Florida. I can't stand that guy. But they're so screwing up the Florida race and what they're doing down there and on the Hispanic. I mean, you see Seth and some of these other guys who are like, these places are safe because the 2024 Hispanic margins are here to stay. And it's like, what? Right. Have you paid attention to nothing? Have you looked at none of the party identification, party registration, primary participation, general election, special election outcomes? Yeah. They're all, Hispanics are off the train. They're gone, assuming they're going to vote more Democratic than maybe ever before in places like Texas and Florida. And what does that mean? It means those seats are very much up for grabs. It's going to take the fight of his life for Paxton to win in Texas. And everybody's asleep at the wheel in Florida when Florida is much greater risk than they realize.
We have Republicans currently winning with leaners 23.5% of the Hispanic vote. Just so people, I have to pull this down. I'll put the map back up in a second because anytime I say something like this, it's got to be showed because people just say I'm full of shit or something, but no, I'm not. Here it is. Where are you? Here it is. All right, I know it's small. Give me a second. I'll make it full screen. There we go. All right. Before leaners, you have, Republicans are just getting absolutely shellacked, dude. 20.5% is all they can pull of the Hispanic vote on the initial ballot. And then with leaners, and this is of registered voters, but 23.5%. There it is right there. So basically 60 to 24. When you throw in the likely electorate, where are you? Oh, it's on the first thing. That's right. I got to go to boop. Yeah. So maybe it kicks it up to 30%, Robert, something like that. I also do have the presidential race, which I'll be honest, I've been so busy. I really haven't had time to look at it. It's ugly. Marco Rubio, Mr. Hispanic, gets 26% of the Hispanic vote. Bro, 26%, dude. And at least JD Vance is in the low 30s. All right, so at least he's in the low 30s.
Oh, you mean having a Hispanic surname doesn't translate into votes with Hispanics?
You would be, I know that's so crazy to think of, even after the old white guy from New York City set the record for Republican support among Hispanics. It's crazy.
The Build the Wall mass deportations guy got the biggest support from Hispanics.
You gotta love this, brother. And actually, when JD is in the head-to-head against Newsom with leaners, he gets 42% of the Hispanic vote, actually. He just gets slaughtered.
Well, and that's Paxton's best hope, is that his strong Maha bona fides and strong immigration bona fides, which, contrary to conventional wisdom, play well with the Hispanic vote.
Yes.
That will be enough to withstand Tallarico, who will have probably a big money edge in the race because the National Republican Senate Campaign Committee will, you could almost guarantee, abandon Paxton in the general election.
Yes, absolutely. And by the way, with Tucker and Joe Kent on the ticket, Vance and Rubio's Hispanic vote share falls to 35.5, and Tucker takes 16%. So, man,
That
Tucker
gives you an idea for where that
and
vote
Kent
is.
is a huge threat. If they ran just to be dicks, it's Ross Perot, bro. It's Ross Perot.
Well, and you may have a situation where that may be the best thing down ballot, stuff like that. You know, you might look at it and say you have no shot at the White House. So let's have a third party libertarian independent candidacy to get down ballot Republicans, conservatives have a shot. We'll cover like the governor's races in July and then the House races in August. But as a sneak peek preview, there's a lot of governorships that people are assuming are not going to be competitive that I think they're wrong on. I mean, I don't think Texas is going to be the blowout it's been in the past. I don't think Florida is safe at all for a Republican.
They're
like Byron Donalds. I mean, wait till the scandals start coming out about Donalds. I mean, let's just say it's Laura Loomer-ish, Epstein-ish. It's got those kind of vibes to it. Can't hang out with Corey Mills there, Byron, and not have some of that blow back on you.
That's what a lot of people I know were really worried about. They were like, dude, you know, we're gonna do this again. You know, like
and personally, I can't know. You pulled Florida more accurately than anybody. My own take is, I mean, isn't it a primary a heavily boomer vote in the Republican side? And one and two, doesn't it cost a lot more money than Fishback could ever raise to be competitive?
Yeah, this is why I'm very skeptical over some of the stuff even I have seen. And I understand where some people are coming from, where how they think that, you know, Fishback has a better chance. Florida's expensive. Florida is super expensive. It is not an easy state to run in. I don't know, man. I'm very bearish on, even if Fishback was to beat McDonald's in some crazy fluke. I'm super skeptical, man. You need a lot of money, man. I mean, that's it. Yeah. And you also need a wide coalition. And I feel like he would do better with younger whites, but he's going to do worse with like some of these older boomers and like Monroe who vote Republican for president. They have no problem voting for a Democrat for governor even, but definitely even for Senate. I mean, Bill Nelson used to do really well there. You know, Alex Sink running against Rick Scott did really well, even though Scott edged her out. But that didn't come out right. He edged out that win. Yeah. So, I mean, I just think that people are fooling themselves because they're not understanding. Like, you can go and register as a Republican, guys. Recent new, so many of them are in Florida. So many of them in other places, but there may not be a better example than in Florida. But then that party screws you. Instantly, you're out. And you're voting another way, even though you may not have changed the registration. Democrats got duped by this phenomena hardcore. And they thought, oh my God, with Obama, we're rock solid. We even carried North Carolina. It was unthinkable to them that North Carolina would flip back to Mitt Romney, right? So, I mean,
or Indiana, all the way to 2018, they were pretending Indiana was going to vote Democrat. Missouri was going to vote Democrat because it had been close under Obama. That Clinton had won it back in the day, and it was like, no. There's the Obama he had lost that part of the coalition very quickly, and that's why you'll see surprises. So my uptake is median Senate seats of 52.5 for the Democrats. That the 52 or more bet on Kalshi and Polymarket and Predict It and these other places
getting in early.
I would recommend.
Yeah.
I think the biggest underdog currently that's up there is probably Iowa. That is assumed like 35 to 40% chance it goes Democrat. I think that should be 65% chance it goes Democrat. The best long shot I like is Nebraska. Now it's all the way up to like 35. When we first gave it out, it was at like 15%.
Yeah. And then people caught up.
Yeah, people caught up and it keeps rising. He's running a very independent, smart, populist campaign. But Montana is a long shot. I like Mississippi is a long shot. I think are worth the odds. Do I think both of them will flip? No. Do I think either one will flip? No. Do I think that the odds are better than what the market says?
Right.
Yes. That's the difference. Same Texas, I think it's going to be real tight. Florida, I think it's going to be within 5 points either way. I think North Carolina, Carolina, Georgia, Michigan, there's no shot. It doesn't matter who they nominate in Michigan. That Rogers is sunk. Those kind of you're talking about a D plus 12 electorate,
bro.
D plus 12.
This is like driving me nuts. But go look at I'm just going to call them out. Go look at the Epic MRI surveys, guys. Where are you getting this R+4 electorate? Where the fuck do you think that's coming from? That's not going to happen. All right. It's just not. You're living in a delusion. First of all, Republicans have been inept at winning elections in the state of Michigan without Donald Trump on the ballot. They have not proven the ability to do that in any shape or form in the Trump era without Donald Trump. They get killed even though they poll extremely well. Let's not forget, some polls had Tudor Dixon pretty close, and then she got stomped. All right. So, I mean, we've seen this over and over and over again. There was a new poll that came out today, which I believe was the first truly public poll. There's been a lot of polls in Michigan that are being portrayed as public. Let me just give everybody what I'm talking about here. And you're going to read a lot about this in the coming. I don't know when it's coming out, but I do know it's coming. And they didn't even need me, Robert. They had so much information. Really, all they wanted me to do, they were like, I was like, look, I don't really want to be bothered with, I don't really want any part of the, at first I was. And they're like, okay, well, we just need you to kind of confirm whether or not this happened. If I read something specific to you, can you tell? And I'm like, well, I don't know, read it, And these motherfuckers had it verbatim, dude. I was like, oh, somebody told them, somebody recorded these conversations, something, man. They got it hands in. I'm not going to fucking lie. You got it. That's it. I look good. I come out smelling like roses because I'm the only one going, no, this is wrong. This is not okay. We're no better than the left. This isn't all right. You're lying to people. Just so everyone knows what I'm talking about, there's a lot of money being thrown around at right wing or so-called independent pollsters to pay them to do these surveys. And you think they're public surveys, and they're not. And it's being funneled through other organizations. And right now I'm causing heart attacks to multiple people. Don't worry, I'm not going to say your name. Doesn't matter anyway. I'm going to let you know who do it because they have the big lawyers. And if they expect to be sued over this article, apparently, and they're going to win. So whatever, it doesn't matter because it's true. So they have the goods on you. I would not sue and make myself look like an idiot if I was you, especially since I'm telling you they read verbatim what I recall to be the conversation. They know somebody recorded it. Somebody gave you up. It's over. They got you. Just say you're sorry and you'll never do it again. Actually, I think some of them will probably be ruined forever. I don't know, man. We'll see. But you guys should know they're not real polls, okay? They're not they may be real, they know the result that they want them to get, so they'll massage the data a little to get the result that they want, and it may be within the realm of reality, but it's not reality. And you guys are just looking at them like, oh yeah, we're ahead in Michigan, we're ahead in this state. No, you're not. And they know you're not. And their idea is, if we could get you to think that we are, then you won't lose hope. You'll vote. And then hopefully between now and then we can make reality match the fake polls. By the way, they did this in Mexico. The cartel did this in Mexico, and they stole an election doing this. Yeah, I mean, this is very, very bad, guys. And I wanted no part of that shit. I was like, I would rather be a poor pollster. You know what I mean? Thank you. Which I'm not going to be, but I'm saying I'd rather. They're making money, bro.
I think Michigan, North Carolina, Georgia, and Maine are not even going to be close. I don't think they're going to be within 5 points. Democrats are going to win with ease.
Plattner came down, and I bought him. I'm not going to. I'll just say
I play. He fits that northern part of Maine very, very well.
Dude, nobody's going to give a shit about the sexting thing. His wife is standing by him. Did you watch her video? I felt for the woman.
It was a nothing burger. Big nothing burger. My wife
was like, if I was in Maine, I'd vote for this guy now. Just because of how dirty it was. To
your point at the top of the show, the 2025 was already so Democratic that people that threatened to murder their opponents and their opponents' children in front of them got elected to the chief law enforcement position in Virginia. I didn't think that was possible, but that's how bad the environment was. And it's worse now. It is much worse
It's
than
worse.
it was in November of 2025.
It's worse.
So
guys.
the good transition to entering all the super chats before we wrap for tonight.
I got a very funny exit
speaking of
video.
missing posters, it's one of the first questions.
Oh, get out of here. Don't worry. I have on good authority that'll be a comeback story very soon. I have it on good authority anyway. Hold on. Let me put it where it belongs, Robert. And Mark Mitchell Ransom Fund. You keep saying Mark is about to get released out of the basement and the red ball gag taken out of his mouth. When?
I think before July 4th, our quarter century anniversary, which the president has taken the decision to just scrap all the pageantry, and he's just going to talk for 3 hours instead.
Unbelievable.
I mean, somebody in the White House has just got to smart smacking him around. This is insanity and stupidity on steroids.
2 or 3 times at least, I said something to the effect of what I tweeted, which was like, you know what's been a massive issue with you people? Nobody has any balls to tell him the truth. And this has been like, who talked about this being done wrong? Who talked about that? The president said this. It's like you're focused on people addressing the wrong shit instead of the wrong shit. And then not having the balls or the courage or what I view really as true loyalty to tell the president the truth. And it's like that to me. I don't know how you could claim you're loyal if you gaslight your leader. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not real loyalty, Robert. I mean, history is like the dustbin of history is littered with leaders who blew, these enormous opportunities for themselves and their people because they surrounded themselves with sycophants. And those sycophants didn't have the stomach, the moral clarity, whatever it is, to be honest with that leader. And it just led them astray. And that is where Donald Trump is. And it's so sad because it's like, when it came to, this is breaking news, by the way, which I meant to bring up because somebody had sent this to me and then I sent it to somebody else because of the earlier conversation. My entire point was, at this point, like, this is how the public views you barring some public humiliation of Benjamin Netanyahu, you will never be seen as the strong leader you were once seen as ever again. Ever. It's never going to happen. And you, who may want to succeed him, you will never be seen that way either, because everyone views you as BB's bitch. Like, the memes of you bent over the podium, that's your legacy. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's not a jokester. That's not someone fucking around. That's how you're seen. And it will be that way forever unless you do something about it. So apparently this is real. And I can even give you exactly what he said. Trump went off on Netanyahu in a phone call that took place after this interaction I'm telling you about. And I wonder if this had something to do with it.
It's the only way he's got to exit. And the only way Iran's going to allow an exit is Israel be put back in the box.
It's being reported by Axios now. Oh, shit. So this is what he went off on Netanyahu. And he said, you ready? Verbatim. You're fucking crazy. You'd be in prison if it weren't for me. I'm saving your ass. Everyone hates you. Everyone hates you now. Everyone hates Israel because of you and because of this.
Well, he's got to. He's got to put him back. Well, I mean, it's what the Reagan strategy is.
Yeah.
The Reagan strategy is not what Mark Levin said it was. The Reagan strategy was get out, pull our troops out, pull our military presence out. That's what he did after the Beirut barracks. He didn't use it as a pretext to double down. He didn't use it as a pretext to do a bunch of invasions. He said, we're out of here. And that was step one. And step two was Israel, get back in your box. You're committing a Holocaust. That's what Ronald Reagan said. All these conservatives are running around saying, you got to be more like Reagan. Well, that's what Reagan did, Marky boy. Reagan said, get back in your box. I know a Holocaust when I see it. He didn't mind using those.
Like Hitler, bro.
Yeah, that's exactly. He had no limitations on it because the then Prime Minister of Israel was shocked.
Yeah.
It's like, how dare you use that phraseology? He goes, well, I know it when I see it. And that's what I'm seeing.
Yep.
So Trump, if he doesn't do the same thing, then he can't mitigate this. I mean, because the economic losses are mounting as we speak. So it's still, June. So is there a chance to mitigate it? Yes. Chance to reverse it? Probably not. Chance to mitigate it? Yes. But it's got to give the first step. It's got to be to get the heck out of there. And that means rein. Joe Kent's been right all the way through.
Yeah, it's been.
Have to rein in Israel if you want this war to end.
Speaking of Joe Kent, we were talking earlier, and I texted him because I'm like, I'm going to play the clip at the end, but these fucking podcasters, 200 dead little kids. Well, shit happens in war. How would you know, you little bitch? You didn't sign up to join. All of them are all enlistment age as of 9/11. Where were they? They're all over these wars. You like to stand. That little shit would puke his guts out if he saw what happens when a child is hit with an ordinance like that. If there's anything left of them, it happens. Things happen in war. Little piece of shit. Oh my God, man, that angered me so bad. And then I'm like, Joe, where were these people? Where were these? Because Joe was in before. But then, like, you had people like me and Sean Parnell. You got to give some people credit where it's due. Where are these other guys? Like, where were these other guys? Ben Shapiro loves Israel so much, bro. Why didn't you go in the IDF? Why didn't you go in the IDF? Well, you could have joined the IDF. You didn't have to sit behind your keyboard and play your little fucking violin and say you want to be the first Hasidic on the Supreme Court, bro. You could have threw your ass in front of a fucking bullet like the rest of us, but you didn't. And you all you do is what? Like, it's easy to what I'm trying to say, guys, I guess it's like, it's easy to support something so hideous and so violent and so evil when you're not the one who has to carry it out. All right. And that was the entire lesson, Robert. I'm putting together an episode for Inside the Numbers, but it's like the enigma of the Iran war, the lesson of the Iraq war. All of these other guys should have learned and supposedly did. Like, I don't know, 14 months ago, they were still claiming they knew it, and yet somehow they all are the ones advising the president and or prosecuting the war with, under the peace president, making all the same mistakes that they made during the Iraq war. It's an enigma. It's mind boggling to me. Sean, what are you doing, bro? Like, I love you like a brother. Like, I'm not attacking you, but where is your head, bro? Pete Hegseth, you know what I've been told? You were right. You were actually right. And I'm telling you, I have shit from people standing right there. This guy is delusional, loves to play. What's that shit? You said it. It's exactly the phrase they used to. Hold on, I'll find it right now. No, dude, where he's playing like a role, like keeping.
Oh, yes. Oh, Team America, World Police.
Dude, this is fucking ridiculous. It's ridiculous, the shit you're going to hear about Pete Hegseth. You were totally right. Like, he's on a, casting thing, and he's just out there playing a role, and that's it, and he loves it.
He loves it when Trump says, right out of central casting, man. Yeah,
Central
right out of
casting.
Team America Road
That's
Police
it.
central casting.
That's actually the word they used, Robert. He loves this central casting game more than anybody else. And this is a guy who claimed, I saw the horrors of war and I'd never want to send troops in. Now look at him snorting like a pig when Trump is like, he loves war. Look, and he's like, yeah, I really do. What a loser, bro. I'm sorry. And I'll tell you what, man, I fought hard for that son of. I fought hard for him.
Yeah. He insisted.
I fought so hard for him.
He insisted that he was off. That he was on the wagon. Turned out he was off the wagon. He fell off hard, fell off fast. I think Max Blumenthal's reference to him as Heg's death is my favorite phraseology for him.
That was future from Max. Yeah,
a future subject of impeachment if he doesn't get out between now and January 2027 because of the various war crimes he's bragged about, like a nitwit.
Openly.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I mean,
yeah, we hit him there and we did this, and see that ship's out there and they think it's peaceful international water. Boom, we took him out. See a little fisherman, he thinks everything's fine. Boom,
look around and find out.
Yeah. Team America, yeah. I mean, that's how. This guy's a disgrace. He's a bad joke.
FAFO, bro. Like,
honestly, FAFO, Secretary of War.
Bro, the Saturday Night Live skit was actually apparently
true. Yeah,
it's
South Park's caricature of him was they actually nailed it. It turns out.
Unbelievable. Fist bump, bitch ass bump. Yeah. ridiculous. Listen, I think Robert agrees. Like, no one's going to care about the sexting
It's
scandal.
Northern
Nobody
Maine.
cares.
It's
They never
Northern
care.
Maine. Stephen
Yeah.
King country. Those people aren't going to care about any of that. Like him talking about banging some hoes in Thailand, they're not going to be bothered by
Cares?
that. And he tried to bang some other one when he was married. Okay, congratulations.
That lobster fisherman was like, "Oh yeah, Thailand."
Yeah, exactly.
Is that where its places to be? Oh man,
Yeah,
I'm paying
exactly.
way too much in Nova Scotia. Shit.
Exactly. They're not going to be bothered by any of that. This guy's
not
got
at all.
anti-war bona fides in an anti-war election cycle.
He's
So I think Collins' days are done, finished, over, gone. I don't think that's going to be close on election night. I think it's just going to be a blowout. Because I think the floor in Northern Maine is going to fall through the roof, fall through the floor, and that she won't have enough out of suburban Portland to survive.
That's what I was going to say. Like, the only way, and the Republicans know this, that they think she could survive, and I could see this, is that if they get Democrats like to basically get, and they are, you can see it, trying to get in line with Susan Collins, because guys, and listen, they can't abandon Plattner. Those headlines aren't right. You can't abandon Plattner because they never supported Plattner from the very beginning. Graham Plattner is a threat
dragged
to
the governor.
Quo. Yes.
Yeah, Schumer dragged the Democratic governor in Maine, Janet Mills, to challenge him.
Yes.
But for all those that think there's this big appetite for Democrats to dump him, even the sitting governor with the sitting Democratic Senate Majority Leader with tens of millions of dollars could not move the needle against Plattner. She was going to lose by 40 points to salvage her reputation. She dropped out at the end. So that's where I'm like, if there's this big appetite against Plattner against Democrats, why didn't it show up in the primary with the Democratic governor running against him?
And it will be counteracted anyway, though, like Robert said, like as many. Yeah, there are more voters in the first district outside of Portland and Bangor, right? But the problem with that is that the Trump voters in the second district aren't voting for Susan Collins. They're not. You can actually see it you can see it in the surveys. And Maine is very hard to poll. Yes, Susan Collins has outperformed it, but that was one cycle. In other cycles, Susan Collins was actually ahead. All right, so like there was only one real miss with Collins.
I made money betting on Collins in 2020.
I remember
when none of the polls thought about it. Very different dynamic this race. Very different dynamic.
Totally, I remember 100%. Remember, and we told people back then they are wrong, and they're wrong because of the second district's poll. The second district's number where there's no way Trump is missing his benchmark in the second district by 16 points. That's wrong. And DRI, I'd be curious to see them poll that race. I believe it's DRI, right? They used to poll for the Bangor Daily News. They are hands down the best one. The Pan Atlantic survey is not the best one. In fact, if you go back and look, you'll see in both 20 and 24, a lot of those other surveys we're seeing now did pretty bad, and DRI was like right on the money. So I'll wait for them. They clearly can poll Maine better than others. It's a tough state to poll. Michigan last elected a Republican to the U.S. Senate in 94, timed with the presidential election. It was 1972. A 2024 Trump won Michigan by 1.41. Rogers lost 0.34. And here's the kicker, Cool Blue. Not only did Rogers lose because he did worse with like Saginaw and Macomb working class voters than Trump, but he actually did worse with college educated whites in Oakland, Black voters in Wayne County, and Arab voters in Dearborn. So all these pockets where Trump made up 5 points, 3 points, all over them. But go look at Oakland. That I literally laughed live on, I believe it was Solomon or Newsmax. I couldn't contain my happiness. I giggled live like a child and made fun of every Republican consultant out there because they were also, well, Trump, maybe he gets his working class vote, but DeSantis will do better with the educated whites in Oakland and he'll win Michigan. And I'm just laugh like that's asinine. But here's Trump doing better anyway with those constituencies than they're like, what David Giglio has a name for them, but they're like perfect Republican for a state like that. That's somebody like Rogers. I'm telling you, Rogers does not have a snowball's chance at this moment. Not unless Fayed or whatever his name is, whatever, goes out there and makes a total fool of himself. Worse. It has to be something really bad because I'm telling you right now, saying the guy lied about being a doctor and being pro-Palestinian instead of being pro-Israel. Everyone is taking right now as a negative. It's a positive, you idiots. And Ro Connor's right. You lost Michigan because you don't understand that. It's unbelievable to me. That 1.41, Robert, was way, way more comfortable than Wisconsin. It was closer to Pennsylvania. That was unheard of. Nobody saw that coming except for, by the way, that's why I only pulled Michigan and Pennsylvania toward the end, guys, because I did see that coming. And it was because of the nature of the Trump coalition being less white, less old. It was like, oh, so Wisconsin will not be the closer one this time. It will not be the easier lift this time. Wisconsin's actually going to be harder because he's not making inroads with those like more, that particular Scandinavian groups, educated whites. He's just not. And, Michigan is less white. So it made, and by the way, Trump won Hispanics in Michigan by double digits. He helped Rogers win Hispanics too, but he only won them by single. It was very, very narrow margins. So,
that's not happening.
He can't do that by himself. No. That's right. He can't.
This cycle, the Arab vote the Muslim vote will all be opposed. Hispanic vote will all be opposed. Some of the black men they picked off Detroit will flip back, and there isn't enough other voters to add anywhere else in the state to get back to being competitive. Rogers will lose by 5 or more.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. He's like the worst kind of candidate for Michigan as a Republican now. This isn't 2002 anymore. And it's like, that's what these Republicans still think it is. Trump, before he had this rug pull, that is the ideal candidate for Michigan if you're a Republican, before the rug pull. Because I'll tell you right now, Donald Trump can't win the state of Michigan today. As it stands right now, if there was a rematch, he'd lose all three. He'd lose all three. Lose Pennsylvania, lose Wisconsin. You could just put Kamala Harris up there and they're going to vote against him, guys. I'm sorry, but it's true. Actually, he loses to Joe Biden. Multiple people, but someone I trust just did that. And he lost to Biden badly. It was like, just because people are so mad. This is for you, Robert. Kim Barnes, please read this in an angry voice.
Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave with a box of scraps. I think it's because I look like that character. That lawyer character.
Oh, get out of here.
What's his name? I forget the actor.
He's a dick in real life. John, he's a dick. John Favreau.
Yeah, he is.
In real life, he
did come across as, with the juice. Yeah, dude, but I don't.
He just came at me, bro. I was like, oh, it's John Favreau. He's like, I fucking hate you. I'm like, what? What? I'm like, I don't fucking know who you are, dude. Apparently he did.
That's funny.
I was like, oh, okay. Up yours, dick. It was so surprising. I was like, oh man, this is awesome. And not awesome at all. I don't know. What's his name did that to me too, but only he did it online. John Cusack.
Oh yeah.
You remember that? I was like, damn, dude.
That dude was always a little weird.
Shit ain't serendipity no more, bro. Okay.
Exactly.
Hey, Rich and Barnes, what's your opinion on Ken Paxton's race in his baggage? Saw a video on some voters in Texas that are upset about the data centers. Yeah, Republicans have a problem with data centers. All right, they better get their
and the AI. We're so neck deep with AI. Yeah. The surveillance state, using it to make attacks. All this stuff. We've got to re-examine. The Republican side needs to re-examine their love affair with data centers.
And Bannon's been trying. He's been trying. In fact, when I was at the White House, it was one of the first questions that was asked to me. Peter Navarro was talking to the president about it, and he was like, "Hey, Rich, what do you think about these data centers? What do you think about the data center situation?" I gave it to them with the bark on, dude. They just kept rolling. I don't know what to tell you. I gave it to them with the bark on. I'm like, I don't know. People fucking don't want them anywhere near them. People are terrified about AI. Like, why do you don't need a pollster to tell you this? Come on, Peter, you're a smart guy. You're from my side, aren't you? I mean, you weren't born in a tower, bro. Like, the deal. This is not going to end well. And by the way, the party who's, like Barnes is saying, who's married to it, when all goes to hell is and the economy is hurt by it, and there's just ugly ass data centers all over the place. People are going to be furious at the party who allowed it to happen. They're going to be furious. As far as Paxton's baggage, though, it's like the question in my mind was this: is Paxton's baggage as severe? Will it cost as many votes as John Cornyn's inability to get the base out in an election where we have no prayer to win the middle. We have, guys, the idea like we're going to win the independents, or like the Eric Erickson line argument is horseshit. Okay. Yeah. I don't want to get this candidate because he's going to gin up Democratic votes. The Democrats are coming out. There's nothing stopping them. They're coming out, and they are the high propensity coalition. They're voting. In case you haven't noticed, they kicked our ass in Texas. They kicked our ass in Georgia. They're outvoting us everywhere. North Carolina, everywhere almost. Basically, where we don't have like a 10-point registration edge, they're kicking the shit out of us. And they're going to come out. And the only way that we can mitigate the damage to from the middle is if we gin up enough base enthusiasm among our people that we also drive the independent vote out, because Obama did that. He knew he wasn't going to win the middle against Mitt Romney. So what did he do? He turned it into a D+5 electorate. And instead of Romney winning by 11, 15 points among independents, he won by single digits. Even though all the polls showed that he would do better. Well, they didn't come out. And Barack Obama got his indies out, and it narrowed the margin. Wasn't enough for him to overcome it, but it was enough for him to overcome, period, because he had such a big advantage. But that's the difference here. Paxton can bring the base out. Paxton, like Barnes said, can win back some Hispanics. He can. He's got bona fides with MAGA. He's got bona fides with Maha. Cornyn's a fucking joke. Cornyn was like the textbook, I'm going to lose in a stunning upset incumbent. Like, I don't know how people couldn't see that coming a mile away, Robert. That was going to be the one where everyone had likely Republican and Cornyn was going to lose. And Tallarico was going to beat him by like 2 to 3 points. And everyone's, oh my God, the stunner of the night. Republicans lost Texas. And you and I would have been sitting there like, stunner? I fucking told you so. I'm not saying Ken's going to win. This is the fight of his life. But he had a better chance than Cornyn because of that. That's it, so no matter how it ends up, and Brusiewicz did a good job going after that piece that was leaked to Politico. It's like Republican consultants said that Trump just wasted $100 million with Ken Paxton, who's going to lose. No, asshole, you wasted $100 million tearing down a guy who was going to win anyway and bloodying him up for the general election. And now you're leaking and running to Politico so you can point the finger at somebody else and you don't get blamed for the damage you did to Ken Paxton. That's it. That's the truth. And you're going to see this a lot, guys. Steven, you're going to see this a lot. You're going to see these Republican consultants. You're going to see La Savita. They're going to run all over the place. They're going to tell people, see. No, they're trying to deflect the blame because they're the ones who should be blamed in this. This shouldn't even be close. Honestly, Paxton should be ahead by 5 right now. But they did him dirty. And by the way, you're going to see this with all the Israel First crowd people too. They're going to start that's this whole attack against Tucker and the woke Reich. If we don't get rid of them, we're going to lose midterms. We're going to lose elections. Nobody fucking likes you. What are you talking about? You're the one who caused this fracture. I can show you on the generic ballot when Republicans lost their lead. It's when Donald Trump bombed Iran the first time. That's when you lost your lead. Israel First did this, but they're going to be pointing fingers at everybody. It's Tucker. It's Nick Fuentes. It's People's Pundit. It's you, Robert Barnes. It's all of our faults. If I polled myself, I'd probably have a 2% friggin' name recognition, bro. You kidding me? Maybe I'm giving myself a little too little credit there. Maybe 5, maybe 10. I don't know. You know what? I should poll myself one day. But I mean, it's ridiculous to think like we did it. Even Tucker, you did it. Yeah, it had nothing to do with the Epstein files, breaking your word on the Epstein files. It had nothing to do with being BB's bitch after 3 months of your administration. It had nothing to do with that. Yeah, it's our fault. Fucking clapping seal idiots, man. Things that a neocon should understand. Don't march on Moscow, don't bluff Beijing, and don't test Tehran. Then ship off all the manufacturing jobs. What a great comment. Oh, that's good shit. I find it entertaining to watch rep squares make fools of themselves, saying Tellerico is gay and then giving him the Telefrico meme to run with. Yeah, Jack, he was really... I'll tell you what, he was flexing on that too. Robert, what do you think about the Telefrico thing?
I get the nickname. It's not bad as a nickname, not great as a nickname. If he would have the guts to do it, calling him Tel Aviv Tellerico, given his long ties to Miriam Adelson, might be a way to break through to the anti-war constituency in parts of East rural Texas and Hispanic South Texas. That would be the way I would. If you look at who survived in 74 in Pennsylvania, the Republican got the endorsement of the AFL-CIO. You know, that back when they carried heavy weight in Pennsylvania, and decided to make an enemy of Richard Nixon. And consequently, he was able to hold on against a very popular Democratic mayor from Pittsburgh. In New York, Javits ran a brilliantly nasty campaign that managed to make his opponent, former Attorney General Ramsey, look both pro-war and anti-war at the same time. I mean, it was like brilliantly mastered. But that's if you're Alaska, I mean, he's got another problem.
Sullivan, what is he doing?
Well, now he's got an opponent named Dan Sullivan. He's got an opponent with the exact same name, just to screw up with a vote. This guy that's ticked off.
Was going to happen, though. I told you they were going to do this.
Yeah, of course. And he's getting hammered by that chick. Peralta's just hammering him. And it's a huge libertarian state. It's a huge anti-war state. He needed to align that way, and he just won't.
Huge cost of living state.
Absolutely.
Alaska, everything costs more in Alaska. Like, guys, when a gallon of milk was 50 cents in Alaska, it was $5. Like, everything costs more
because of shipping costs. And what goes number one in shipping costs? Diesel. What is skyrocketing right now? Diesel. So if he was smart, those would be the kind of things he would do. But he has shown no interest in it, no appetite for it. I mean, Susan Collins is busy doubling down on the Iraq war while cheerleading the Iran war. She's politically daft and clueless. I just don't see much hope there.
That's her attempting to get the support of Democrats in, establishment Democrats, and especially in DC, which I think eventually they will give her, because I do think they see Graham as a real threat to the status quo in the mold of like Trump, in the mold of like Bernie.
Well, another guy who's going to lose his job is going to be Chuck Schumer. The new incoming Democratic senators are going to pay him back and throw him overboard. They think he's been weak, incompetent. Schumer would be in trouble. Look at what's his name, Mr. Deep State Dan himself, there in New York City, is going to get taken out by the Mamdani machine running against Israel. I mean, nobody thought that guy could lose, and it looks like he's not going to lose. It looks like he's going to get hammered. So expect those changes to keep coming, but I do not anticipate any intelligent campaigns from any Republican Senate candidate, not even Ken Paxton, because I like Ken.
He's got
I like his staff. He's got Jeff Rowe running his campaign. I've never had confidence in Jeff Rowe running a general election campaign.
They get sent too much business from that wing, and that's the problem. Ken Paxton himself, you can go to APAC Tracker, and I love Ken, man. He's my boy, but, bro, this has been the problem he's had for a while. Even if you wanted to get out from underneath the Jeff Rowe machine, he can't. He doesn't even own his own email list, bro. It's part of the contract when you sign with them, and they have a lot of clients, especially safe Republican districts. They have all of that. It belongs all to them. So, like, I just don't see them. What does that mean, guys? It limits your ability to really be autonomous or independent if you want to make decisions in your campaign.
Particularly as to campaigns. What Paxton has going for him is his legacy as a great attorney general. Yeah. And that keeps him in the game, especially on Maha and other issues. And these other scandals aren't going to bother that much. It's just the 100 million plus being dumped against him makes it soft with independent suburban voters. So he needs to run up the rural and Maha vote and the Hispanic vote that aligns with him on issues like Maha and immigration.
They were plastering his wife's fucking writings, dude, on the screen.
I would at least muddy the waters about Tallarico. Is he pro-war or anti-war, given his ties to Miriam Adelson? Who is this guy? That's where I would go, like Javits did in 74. But I just don't have confidence in Jeff Rowe running a competent campaign.
Yeah. For those who don't know what Robert's talking about, actually, as it turns out, Miriam Adelson was the single largest donor to Tallarico's PAC, one of Tallarico's main PAC, and everyone just figured that out now and was like, what? Miriam Adelson, as I said on Tucker, which how many people lost their minds over, including Dave Ruby Boy, lost his mind over it. Because I said that I don't think a lot of right-wing voters understand that these Israel First donors, these the AIPAC, but just even what we view to be Republican Israel First donors are not, they don't give a shit about the Republican Party. They donate to both sides. AIPAC supports both sides. The point for them is to buy both sides, so it doesn't matter who you choose. They win, you lose. That's the way it works. And then it's literally in the middle of this online debate, because Tucker posted the video, that fucking news comes out. And I'm like, gift! Here she is donating. Thank you for the gift, Lord. Here she is donating to Tellerico. I mean, it's just true. And I mean, I didn't say that off cuff, guys. Like, I know a lot of these people, and I got the goods on some of them, flatly admitting. I was just speaking of Mitchell Ransom. I literally showed him some of those conversations. I'm like, look at this, just openly, like, yo, I don't give a fuck about the general election. That was verbatim. I don't give a fuck about the general election. It's more important for us to purge Jew hatred. And I'm like, okay, but Massey wasn't a Jew hater, and I wasn't like some longtime defender of Thomas Massey. He opposes foreign aid, not only to Israel, to everybody. Yeah, that's what all Jew haters say. That's what they all say. And you know what? The Democratic Party was destroyed by Jew hatred. And I'm like, no, it wasn't. It was destroyed by not allowing dissent and getting too radical or outside of the consensus in the American electorate.
And it was being pro-Gaza war and standing by and saying nothing when Israel. It wasn't because they were too critical of Israel and Gaza. It's because they weren't critical of Israel and Gaza. That's why the Biden took so many hits in his. But yeah, I mean, the South Dakota primaries. Interesting,
isn't it?
Yeah, the amount of money being. That's how people reported in Kentucky for it. They just hated the bombardment of messaging and a depressed turnout. So it'll be interesting to watch how that translates in South Dakota.
Yeah. Because that is not a state where they could afford that. Otherwise, you can have Nebraska, South Dakota, Mississippi. I mean, you got these things bleeding red on RCP's map, but you have a drop in turnout because of depression, plus lose independence and 10 to 12% of the crossover. Suddenly, you lost a seat you never thought you could lose. And that happened, by the way. And like Robert brought up in Alabama, even though it was Roy Moore and a candidate's issue, but that's the recipe that goes together. It doesn't just have to be a candidate who's hit with 3-4 sexual, misconduct allegations in a row in the Washington Post. It could be a long thread of disappointments over a year and a half that lead to voters essentially doing the same thing anyway. MAGA has become Hillary, blaming Russia. Yeah. They're no different. I'm sorry. And I can confidently say that because of my own research. I know that I'm not even insulting these people. The people that I felt like I had to give a voice to, Robert, to represent, I'm not insulting them. I'm insulting the boomer rhino. I don't give a flying shit if I insult them or not. I really don't care. They've never been my audience, by the way. Never. So it's not like I'm losing anybody. Now, they were some of my Twitter followers. And as you can see, I'm probably down in the neighborhood of 10,000 or so. I'll get back there. You know when we'll get back there again? After we called this election correctly, because we've been here before, haven't we? We've been here before. And then people go, oh man, I guess it wasn't bullshitting. You think normies understand Israel uses USA air tankers for every attack on Iran? How was Trump surprised by any BB attack? Trump okayed them. What do you think about that, Robert? I think they kind of know the big picture, but they don't know the intricacies. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, because it's the same in Ukraine. Clearly, some attacks only happen because we authorize them, including the efforts to the assassinate President Putin and the recent bombing of that girls' school in Lugansk region, which used to be Ukraine, now is Russian-occupied Ukraine. Most observers say that for a lot of that longer range targeting, that it has to come from U.S. satellites and U.S. information. So somebody's approving it. And then the question is, how much does the higher ups in the chain of command know it? Yeah. And that's kind of an open debate. There are those that are more cynical, that think everybody knows everything. There's others that think that people at the top mostly don't have a clue at all. I think the truth is somewhere in between, because you could see clearly that Joe Kent didn't know certain things had happened, which means he had never been greenlit into the process at all. Tulsi Gabbard wasn't greenlit into a whole bunch of things. So if Tulsi Gabbard and Joe Kent weren't greenlit into things, why does anybody think? Oh, we both know situations where Vance wasn't read into it. Why do we believe Trump was necessarily read into it? And let's be frank, Trump is not all there with it these days. Whether it's declining mental health, corruption scandals, stress at his age, whatever it is, the idea that they're reading him into every one of these details, I seriously doubt.
So my dad's and his friends, man, was like saying the same thing. Like, listen, Richie, at our age, it's not even like necessarily like we look at him and like in a bad light. It's just that like at our age, this is probably not the right position. We have to stop doing this. And I find it funny that like the hero boomers saying this, like telling me that they think we need to start electing younger people because it's not anything against older people. It's like, look, I'm just telling you how I fucking feel today. You think I'd want to run the country today? Probably not. My back hurts, and we already know of one situation, guys, where he was basically thrown out of the Situation Room. Like there's right. You know what I'm talking about. There's like no other way to put it. Like they were like, you have to get out. Like you're being disruptive. You're being distracting. And we need you to leave. You're becoming an operational risk. Like,
if Fox isn't obsessively covering it every night, you can assume Trump doesn't know it's happening.
Yeah, man, that's a crazy statement, but I agree with at this point. I mean, that's crazy, but there it is. Turning Point does what Trump BB tells them. Oh shit. You know what? I'm taking this picture and I'm sending it to them. Not because I'm getting you in trouble, Brian. It's because I have been telling them I don't think they fully appreciate how they're being viewed right now and where this is all headed. Like, again,
they could reverse course correct a lot on the public perception. They blew an opportunity, in my view, to do it in Massey's race, but they have one last chance. It really is one last chance. It's to take out Lindsey Graham in South Carolina, because if Graham loses that to Lynch, the Turning Point will get the most credit of anybody if they're very publicly engaged, publicly active, getting out the vote, putting out all the effort there. Move the show there for the next week. Have it be done in different Turning Point campuses to motivate people to get out the vote. You got to go full throttle, because if Graham wins, the perception is going to be one of two things. Turning Point is sincere but utterly weak and thus irrelevant. Or they're insincere and they've been captured.
That's what I'm worried about too. And I know
either way, it's a loss for Turning Point. People want to say, why get involved? Why get engaged? They can't do anything. They can't move the needle.
They're viewing that the president has always been such a good friend to Erica and to Charlie even, and I get that. But my point to them is, like, at some point, guys, believe me, if it was between you or him, he would choose him. And I'm telling you that you are in this position where in a few months, your inability to side with your own people, which is what's going on here, could cost you dearly. I mean, it concerns me because I really believe they are a must-have organization in this country. I believe Charlie filled a role nobody else got, man. Like, and he had the ability to put it together because he had the ability to raise money. They had the tentacles, the organization and the tentacles that you need to do something like that. And if we lost Turning Point, it would be a catastrophe, because Republicans, guys, are stupid. They're not smart. These consultants, the other organizations that say they're getting out the vote, they're full of shit. Like, you have Scott Pressler out there who breaks his ass, works in literally, I don't know. I'm not saying this to put him down at all. It's quite the opposite. Like, I know Scott has slept in his car before because there's not enough money to do the job and put himself in a hotel room. You know, these other guys, all they give a shit about is that hotel room. All they give a shit about is those, ooh, what a dibs am I going to have before the party tonight to talk about how great work we're doing that we're not doing at all. You know, like, that's all they care about. And they care about their stupid heritage organizations and, you know, the parties they throw and, you know, who am I going to rub elbows with and who does my $50,000 donation get me a chance to sit down and meet. It doesn't go to any of the hard work, the stuff that's not sexy but wins elections. That's what Democrats dedicate themselves to, and that's why we're always behind. And even with Turning Point, even with The Drews and I at 10X with the vice president and Tucker, even with those two, Elon Musk, and then Trump 47 doing his own thing, even with all those organizations working as fast and as hard as we could work, the Harris and Democratic campaign ran fucking circles around us. They still did. And the only reason why we were effective was because we had the message. It's like the old Alex Castellano saying when Hillary had to get out the vote and Trump didn't. It's like a church is only a church if Jesus is there, man. And it's got the message. If there's no Jesus and no message, just a barn, bro, an empty barn. Like that is so right, and that's why it looked so effective. We were effective. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there's no way we could have knocked on as many doors as they knocked. There's no way we could have. Yeah, I mean,
and you can't be a co-host of the show and tell people that it's crazy to believe in the Epstein files. Go back and listen to Charlie. Charlie was more aggressive on that than I was on the Epstein files. I mean, he'd been talking about it for years, and it's a bad look for the organization. So they have an opportunity. Take out Graham, and you redeem a lot of credibility. Don't take out Graham, and you probably lose your last chance at credibility.
If you're gonna say you're gonna stay out of something too, then stay out of it.
Yes, exactly correct.
Definitely
don't pour salt in the wound after the fact.
Yep. Oh my God. At this point they should just have him on and like a mea culpa. Right. How many Senate seats need to flip to convict Trump? Well, I'll tell you right now, and I'll put it back up actually. What Robert and I just showed you before, which was without all of the ones the NRSC don't want the public to know that they're in trouble with right now. Even if we gave South Carolina to Graham, all right, let's give it to Graham. All right,
but that's not a vote against conviction.
And I was just going to say
either way, that's a vote for conviction.
That's my point exactly. Let's give Nebraska to Republicans. All right. So now Dems picked up
that's another one that would very easily be a vote for conviction, even if the Republican wins.
So in truth, if Republicans lose, if the Dems pick up 6, and that of course requires Republicans to lose Alaska, Susan Collins will leave. All right, so you can actually take away 47. Yes, because in this scenario, Susan Collins goes down, her friend. And she has said, and I am telling you, you will watch. This will be one of my greatest predictions because it's not a prediction. All right, I know because Lisa's told people and have told me. All right, so that's it. She has on multiple occasions said, especially if Susan loses, all right, which is in this scenario, she will leave and she will say she's an independent, but she will caucus with Democrats. So will actually be 54. All right. I still think even in this scenario, he's cooked because you need to get to 60 and they're going to get there.
67 for this.
60. Yeah. That's right.
But you were saying that they already had up to 8.
They already have it. That's what I'm
votes.
saying. That's what I'm saying.
So if Democrats get up to 55, say, then I think if Democrats cross 55, Trump 50-50, Trump gets removed. Because their ability to get 4 more, especially here's the problem.
55. See, I think it's like here, bro. I do because there's already like 6, 7 to 8 now.
Because who are some of the? I mean, you could see people that like Wicker could easily betray him out of Mississippi.
Oh God,
you could see what's his name. You could see Cotton betray him out of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a lot of people that. I mean, how many people had Bill Cassidy voting for his conviction in 2021?
That's right.
And
so this is totally different. He's not going to be around anymore on the ballot. See, in 2020, the reason why McConnell wanted that last ditch thing to happen is because he wanted a resolution barring Trump from running again.
There's another conviction vote. Andy Barr. Andy Barr will be quick to vote.
Andy Barr will vote to convict. And this is the whole. Well, but Trump endorsed Andy Barr. That's a Trump candidate.
Wake up time. This is what happens when you reward traitors.
This is what happens when you reward traitors. Should I play some of the video again, guys? I think I did this before, didn't we?
They'll stick it right back in you. And then this doesn't even get to everybody's going to be shocked. Like when Glenn Greenwald did that recent debate of all the young MAGA influencers. That's
right. Yes.
Almost nobody on the right in the Trump world knows the scale of the corruption. The Senate's heard, but what's going to happen is Trump's numbers are already at like Nixon 74, Bush 07, 08. They're at some of the lowest numbers of any, lower than Reagan ever got, lower than Poppy Bush ever got, lower than Bill Clinton ever got, lower than Barack Obama ever got, lower than even Joe Biden ever got. That's how bad his numbers are. And that's without the corruption scandals incoming. So you add that, that I think is the story that will build so much. They'll have the cover for a bunch of Republican senators to say, no, we're honest, we're in ethics. And a whole bunch of them want to stab him in the back anyway.
Mike Rounds will do it because he didn't
that'd be a quick traitor.
Yep. And there's like a little bit of backstory there with the disclosure stuff. Yeah, I mean, guys, they're there. Those votes are there. I actually am struggling to find out who would be, who would not. So I think Rand Paul,
right, who wouldn't, no matter what. Right.
After
Rand Paul wouldn't because he wants to be president in 2028.
Yeah,
but,
you think so?
But otherwise, Rand Paul would be up in the air for that kind of vote.
Brother, if the scandals caused breakage the way that we saw breakage of the Republican evangelical base for Bush, Rand Paul's voting yes. I think so. Because
Capito, John Kennedy will never vote yes. You have a few of those kind of stalwarts. But Capito, West Virginia could easily betray him. She's that kind of Republican anyway.
Yeah. Oh, she's a rhino to the core, bro. Blackburn, he's a no. Blackburn's a no.
Now Scott has presidential ambition, so Scott won't turn on him. But Lindsey Graham Tim Scott, though, from South Carolina, could easily turn on him.
Yeah.
That's just like Timmy Boy. I think
two-faced guys. Big
completely.
Time.
Is U.S. Senate? There's nothing worse.
There's nothing worse. And no, you did not hear me say that. Rich, did I hear you say you would vote for Graham Plattner? Come on, dude. Trump lost me. Don't you lose me too? No, I said somebody would vote for Graham Plattner after the wife's video came out.
Right.
No, I mean, at
just
the end of the
Maine,
day,
they're not voting for Susan Collins this time around in the middle of a war. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, nah. And I'm telling you, I just don't think with his wife standing by his side doing videos the way
there's a bunch of young Trump supporters or a bunch of Trump supporters, crossover supporters.
Oh my God.
They got Plattner signs in their front yards.
You can Maine. It's all over the polling. You can see the recall vote. He's taken a huge chunk of Trump's vote, which tells you since Trump made Maine close, it was like 6 points or something. That tells you something, Robert. That tells you that race is not close. Then, like that's
it's not going to be.
It's not. Yeah. Solution for Trump: invite Bibi to speak to Congress again. Once he arrives in the country, decide to extradite him to The Hague just this one time. Cynic gets it. Now you're talking, man. That's honestly, like, the country views him as a war criminal. And it even people who still like the country Israel and say, yeah, I have a favorable image of Israel. Bibi is killing them because like that group is shrinking and it's like conjoining more and more, which means if you say you don't like Bibi, you don't like Israel. And the people of Israel, which Robert and I, contrary to all the, the people who throw out the word anti-Semitic like it means nothing, contrary to what people have said about both of us, that has always been our number one concern, is that actually, Netanyahu is not elected with this solid majority, guys. Like, this is a guy who avoided getting thrown in prison by a plurality vote, and his country doesn't even like him. A lot of his country doesn't even like him. And they're getting led down the wrong path by him and, Ben Gvir and all the rest of them, when in truth, maybe they can't be held responsible for it. It's not like our system where it's a two-party system and one person usually wins the popular vote and we have an electoral college, but it's like more decisive in our system. They're a Knesset, a parliamentary system. And it's like you can get into power with these like weak pluralities followed by building of a coalition to form a majority government. And then once that happens, there's almost nothing the population can do, So actually the reforms that they put into place, which he undid, actually were meant to address some of this. Like, how do you just let the prime minister just run roughshod without the court being independent? And I'm not going to get into all that because I know there's a lot of people who disagree and they think the court was out of control. But that doesn't really matter. The point is,
the reforms that he had put into place made it much harder for like just an average majority who turns on their prime minister and wants to rein him in. They can't do it. It's over. Like, unless they can pick up guns and start firing at their government. Like, that's the only option or recourse they have. There's no political recourse against Netanyahu until he decides he wants to stand for election again. Like, that's it. So I feel bad for the people of Israel because I don't think Netanyahu reflects them all. Although I have been told now by several Israeli friends who are not on Netanyahu's side that actually it's becoming more and more a fair thing. So, like you have the left all the time saying, or the right, they're the left in my mind, but the people who call others the woke right, they are leftists. Neocons are leftists. So in my mind, I'm thinking they're leftists, like Levin and shit like that. They don't want you to separate criticism of Israel from criticism of Israelis and like Jews. And what I'm being told more and more is that, in fact, Israel is becoming more of an apartheid kind of like state that is more reflective of Netanyahu's government. And I don't know. I don't live there. I don't know if that's 100% true or not, but I'm being told by like dissenting voices on like, the middle and left in Israel that no, the country's getting kind of right-wing crazy. And their version of right-wing is not ours. They have like a different spectrum. Israel is a left-wing country. By all accounts, by all American standards, Israel is a left-wing country, and even their right-wing blocs are fairly left-wing in domestic policy compared to what we view to be right versus left. When I say right-wing, I mean it in the European context. Robert, I'm going to say something that's going to blow up, but I don't really give a shit. I haven't seen a nation act more like Nazi Germany since any time. Like, they're acting like it in foreign policy. They're acting like it in domestic and how they treat dissenters in their genocidal tendencies towards neighboring populations, including Christians. Like, that's right. And so in the European definition, that's right wing. Like, fascism was right wing. But in truth, in American political spectrum, fascism is a left-wing ideology. It's socialist. It's just a different form of socialism than communism, right? But they're telling me, Robert, that they are becoming more right-wing, which is crazy. It's crazy. Sorry, there an alarm sends the dog crazy. We know where one of Trump's head. Oh my God! Oh Lord, Robert. Can I show it to them? Should I show it to them? We have comments actually referencing this. So it got big enough play where multiple, I think it's 2 or 3 now, in the national, over like a week-long period, referenced it. I want to make a searchable database for the comments so people can type in words, and then that will bring up the responses from voters. And yeah, I mean, there's definitely a few of them referencing that shit, man. The Epstein class is Trump's only power base. If Trump crosses them, his family ends up in jail. Trump will yell and scream and ultimately stay bent. Oof. 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 But, I mean, shit. How can you deny? Yeah, we got a lot of comments. We got a lot of comments. Will Trump celebrate our 250th birthday by claiming an unprovoked sneak decapitation strike in the middle of negotiations was the best military option in our history since Pearl Harbor? That's a good one. Does our audience get it, or do they get it, bro? They get it, At this time, strongest rep ticket and strongest Dem ticket in 2020. What a great question, which is why we were doing the polling we were doing. On the Republican side, I can tell you it's Vance Gabbard.
Yeah, Vance Gabbard on the Republican side. Yep. On the Democratic side, it's somebody we don't know yet, is my view. It's somebody that's going to come out, be a governor, be be like a Barack Obama in 06, a Jimmy Carter in 74, Bill Clinton in 90, even a Donald Trump in 2014. People that nobody was really paying much attention to, that were in the weeds. I think AOC has screwed up the Israeli issue in such a way that she's put herself back. Ro Khanna will run, and I think we'll get much more mojo than people think. May set the terms of the debate, the tone of the debate.
I think that's probably his role. I think you're right.
Yeah, I think that's right. But I think it's going to be somebody that's not on it. Somebody who wins a governorship this cycle is going to be the nominee by, just like Trump did it by being the most anti-immigration candidate in 2016. it will be a smart governor that just won running against Israel in 2028 in the Democratic presidential primary. Whoever gets the bona fides, and they're going to try to outdo each other if they're smart, but basically do it. If I'm president, we're going to send Bibi to The Hague and then Donald Trump to The Hague. It'll be that kind of Democratic
year in that.
Yeah, Democratic primary rhetoric. It'll be the Ossoff campaign. Whoever's running his campaign. Well, Johnny goes down to Georgia. The devil goes down to Georgia and meets Johnny with a fiddle. Exactly that whole Epstein class speech that we tested. That's off the charts popular. It will be the Ossoff message, the Ro Khanna campaign focal point, but the candidate will be some newly elected governor that surges and surprises everybody, running again on that Epstein class message, the Ro Khanna topics, and the anti-Israel candidate. That's who's the next Democratic candidate, in my prediction. And it's one of these gubernatorial candidates, and it's not going to be Newsom. It's not going to be the big names. It's going to be a surprise, is my prediction.
I'm unimpressed. I mean, ironically, if we get rid of this real quick, and I just don't want to spend too much time on it because we got stuff to go through, but ironically, if you look from last month to this month, there was like a bit of a I don't know what happened, but Vance was just getting crushed by Newsom. When we did the tickets this month, Gavin Ossoff, Newsom Ossoff, I mean, they're winning, bro, but it was like a 52-48 race again. You know, like that's not a blowout. That's close, actually. And Vance, I suspect, will probably get stronger over time as more people like learn more about Newsom. I know Newsom wants to be president, guys, but you just can't win. We have him down against Harris.
Harris would crush him amongst black voters and Hispanic.
Exactly.
He's got no appeal with other, and that's over half the Democratic primary vote.
Emerson was doing, dude. Buttigieg? I don't know what Emerson polled.
And Buttigieg will do fine in Iowa and New Hampshire, but not South Carolina or Texas.
Yeah. It's over.
So that's why it'll be somebody a surprise is my prediction.
Which they front loaded, remember?
Yep.
So now, like, this is the problem for Buttigieg and Newsom and the rest of them. Front loaded the South to protect Biden. And now, if you don't have a black base of support, you're not going to be the Democratic nominee. That's all there is to it. This line is from Jeff Bridges, Obadiah Stane in Iron Man 1. Been wanting to hear you read that since you joined Viva 8 years ago. Love you guys. That's hilarious, bro. Hey, man. Love you too. That was hilarious. Also, Sullivan can't count on the native Alaska. No, that's the thing. Alaska's totally backwards. The rurals are anti-war and typically libertarian and even democratic. And then the more suburban and urban areas are the Republican areas. And that's the thing. You just can't count on that. And I don't understand. I just don't understand, man. Awesome, Casey. Thank you. I don't understand, man. I don't know what he's doing other than just towing the party line like a I want to drop that so bad. What a little bitch, bro.
Whitmer, I think, does still want to run, doesn't she?
Yeah. I mean, you can't.
She's going to run. Amy Klobuchar is going to run when she's governor of Minnesota.
Yep.
The problem is the Democratic known candidates is they are deeply embedded within the AIPAC Israel lobby, deeply embedded within either the Obama, Biden, or Clinton political.
When they went way off, guys, like
exactly, and these are increasingly pariahs within the Democratic primary electorate. Yeah. That's why a Bernie type. I think Bernie's too old this time around, but a Bernie type candidate with gubernatorial bona fides who runs against Israel on a Ro Khanna type docket set of items as the best chance to pull a surprise. And that's the reason why Shapiro's a dead man walking out of Pennsylvania. On paper, great presidential candidate. He served in the IDF. There's no chance at all Democratic Party is going to nominate someone like that in 2028.
And it's crazy because he would, well, maybe not this time, but he would have crushed, you know, like, they just couldn't get past their true anti-Semitism. Honestly, there is some on the left, there is some true, it's more, I know there is on the right too, but it's not what they make it out to be. Unfortunately, I think how Israel and Israel first behaved in the last, this Trump term, did cause some anti-Semitism, because not only were they getting their presidency hijacked by Israel, but then they were being told that they're Jew haters if they oppose it, and that made some people real Jew haters. You know, they did.
And what if it did? Democrats pull a surprise for the governorship and say South Carolina, Georgia, Texas, whoever pulls that off has Hispanic and black support out of the gate. Very different animal. Those are the places
That's why I'm worried about John Ossoff, because Democrats have been good at making senators good presidential candidates, like JFK, Barack Obama. And it's like, to me, I don't like senators being presidents. I don't think
they generally make poor
they're
ones,
generally bad presidents, but Democrats keep getting them to rise, out of the Senate.
If you have a Governor Bottoms who just won as a black candidate in the South, she'd be, if Kamala doesn't run, she'd be in a front seating position. You could have a Democratic governor out of South Carolina if they pull an upset there. The way Trump is screwing that up, Evan's a terrible candidate. If Mace doesn't make it through, and that ends up being they could absolutely lose the governorship of South Carolina. Wow. And everybody thinks Texas is safe, and I don't think it is.
For the governorship, you mean?
Yes.
Dude, that is a close race in the polling. I can actually tell you. Well, I haven't done the general election now in I guess it's been 2.5 months, but it was 5 points.
Wow, that's what I mean. That's going to be an open race. Abbott's been there a little too long.
That's what somebody else who polled it. He had 7, and I was like, dude, holy shit, this is close. And he was like, you know what, man? Sometimes somebody's just run on the ballot one too many times, and he's like, and I just feel like that's what's going on here. And it's it's bad because they don't quit, guys. They never step aside, and it's always screws up, anyone's ability to win.
Whenever you need Abbott to stand up for something, he never seems to be able to do it.
Jesus, that's crazy. Just during the show tonight, he's gotten 6 text messages and 1 phone call for South Dakota primaries. Only one more day than finally.
He must be the unfortunate high propensity voter.
Yeah, high propensity voter. Maybe labeled you as a persuadable too.
Yes, probably a combination.
Yeah. On Rumble, we got a few. K-Cap, who's strung a few together. One of those lib TikTok guys tried to debate me outside AmFest. Didn't do it because it'd be clipped. But if I was them and had to debate long form, I'd want to debate Dave Rubin. Easy mode. Yeah, stay tuned. I got something funny for the exit. Doesn't the Constitution say census within 10 years? If so, why can't it be more frequent? Well, this is a great question. Someone asked me once before. Why not rerun the census this presidential term? Robert, I didn't know. I wasn't a lawyer, so I didn't know how to answer this. I've gotten this question before, and there isn't anything that explicitly bars.
No, some of us have advocated for it. I mean, there's been contested upon
What
occasion.
What is he doing?
He's just he's too busy worrying about everything else. And the problem is the Israel lobby doesn't care about helping Republicans. So that's why they're not partisan the way people think they are, or some people think they are. Yeah. So consequently, it's not a priority for them.
You don't think Miriam Adelson is a national hero?
That's what exactly. Said. Well, she is for Israel, as Trump himself admitted.
Underneath that tweet, I wrote, "Which nation are you talking about?"
Yeah, exactly,
bro. The fuck out of here, bro. Again, you and your fiddle. Take that fiddle and stick it right up your ass, bro. I know Jack was told, as others, to push the peace deal with Alex a few weeks back. He was fooled by phase 1 again. Dave Smith is right to have thought massive win for Trump meant a deal was done. They're talking about that Twitter war that's going on back and forth. Jack was like,
I don't razz Posobiec on any of that because he's trying to push through the peace deal and encouraging it. That's what he's trying to do. I understand Dave Smith's point that Trump is unreliable on it, but Jack is not cheerleading the war. He's opposed to the war. He's been behind the scenes with it. So I'm not going to razz. He promotes anytime he thinks Trump's going to get out. To give encouragement to Trump to follow through on it.
I've done it with him. Listen, go speak to Xi Jinping. Is it going to go well? Probably no. But go speak to him. You have no choice. We'll actually be super supportive. I did in a segment, and I was like, here's the president's chance to realign back toward America first, the way it was supposed to be, get the fuck out of the Middle East, deal with the actual pivot to Asia we were supposed to do, peel back, let Japan, because Jack and I have very similar views on what we need to do here. Like NATO, the Middle East, all of that has bogged us down for way too long. It's outdated way of the world order, and it's time to change. We need to pivot to the Asian threat. Let Japan, a real ally, militarize again. There's no reason to keep them in the dark like this anymore. Now, especially with the security agreement blown up in the Gulf, they know we can't protect them against those ICBMs coming from Pyongyang. We just can't. So let them feel safe. Let them militarize. They're a huge warrior culture and history. Let them. They will make a good ally. And in the meantime, We take everything in Latin America. I'm sorry. I want to take it all. We're broke and I want to take it all. I literally.
Viceroy Baris.
Yeah, brother, I literally said, not only is this the plan, here's what I want you to do. If you don't want to do it, I will call Milei right now. I will get on the phone with Bukele myself and I will say, congratulations. What do you mean? Congratulations. You're the new provincial governor of Latin America, U.S. Block 2. No, you got a promotion. And when they're like, what the fuck is going on? You want to fill me in? Right. You're not president anymore. We're seizing all your shit and you're going to be nice and you're going to play nice with us. You are now provincial governor number 2. We're going to honor you and everything. It's going to be incredible. You're coming to the White House. The ballroom's almost done. Didn't you see? You'll be an honored guest at the opening of the ballroom, man. It's going to be crazy. I swear to God, they loved it too. They were like,
I'm sure.
But then, of course, what happened? They drug us into this bullshit. We could have taken Greenland, everything from Greenland in our hemisphere, South and Latin America. Bro, we're broke. There's no way to pay back $40 trillion. It's not feasible. We needed to take Venezuela's gold. We needed to take their oil. I mean, you know, the real problem is it's like we can go over in the Middle East and vaporize a bunch of people, but we can't vaporize anybody for our own aim. And it doesn't make any sense to me. If you're going to do it from moolah, man. Do it for the survival of the republic, for Christ's sake. What is this? I would have been so bad if AIPAC would have used their bought congressman to pass Trump's agenda, but they're too selfish to do that. It's all me for Israel. That is totally true. And that is what everybody on the right who feels burned and everyone in the middle who voted for the right-wing bloc this time around feels burned because it's like, okay, we even gave you that limited strike. You blackmailed us for it. We had that, guys, for all the stupid idiot clapping seals who were like, saying that I was making shit up. It's not proven. Like Trump had to do that in order to get the BBB through. Ted Cruz and Lindsey Graham and not Tillis, was one more, were holding him up. They weren't going to let that through unless he committed to some sort of military action. He was able to like maneuver in kind of a magnificent way and give them, basically, nothing. Limited strikes. He knew it would piss some people off, but he still got it through, and he got it through before. So obviously he made them feel he committed to something greater than what he was going to do, because a lot of them were pissed, that it wasn't more, even though publicly they went on Fox News and they were like, Wes is great. He's the greatest president ever. And, privately they were like, son of a bitch, that's not regime change. Like that was always the goal. And thank God for Charlie at the time. I don't think we would have been able to stop it at that time if it wasn't for Charlie. I really don't. And now look, he's not here. And, I know some people like, and Jack too, we talk about this a lot. Like, it probably would have still happened. And I'm like, you know what, but we won't fucking ever know. Now, will we, Jack? Right. So like, we can all say this, but the truth is he's gone. And there's only, I'm just going to leave it at that. It's just, he's gone. And certain things have happened. That's it. I'll leave it there. CK Dolores 123. You guys are right about boomers. My best friend soaks up everything Fox says. It's either boyfriend or best friend. Soaks up everything Fox says. I got in a fight with him, boyfriend, about us losing the midterms. Finally said, my guy's the best pollster ever. He said, we losing, take it to the damn bank. Bro, don't get your wallet out for CK. She's going to take your money, bro. All right. Actually, Dolores, just take his money. Just take his money. If he's going to be this stupid, just take his money. Just take it. It's free money, Dolores.
Might as well. And anybody else who wants to wager me, just let me know. DM me on X or whatnot. I got to hop off. But for the summation, we're 85% anyway. Chance. I think Democrats take the Senate. I think they take 53 or more Senate seats, up to 58 or more Senate seats as the high end range. I think the probabilities Republicans hold the Senate is only about 1 in 6. Yeah. And those odds keep diminishing as we go along. But thanks. And if people want the detailed odds for every single Senate seat, you can go to sportspicks.locals.com. And I got a whole write up there.
I'll take it out, brother. You're good.
Thanks, man. Everybody take care.
Thanks always. All right, I got a little bit on locals, but sportspicks.locals.com. But But I'm going to roll through this lightning round on locals. I was trying to get 80s News Wave Geek comments up there for Robert to see before he went, but I might have missed it. But I'll leave it up as I do this. I just got locals to burn through, but then we'll be done. Oh, is that Breeze thing? Yeah, wait. I want to see that. I want my full attention on that. She's obviously happy because I can see you smiling. Blondie, can you rewrite your question, please? Because it says see above, but then I like search for it and it was like buried in a sugar ton of comments.
Oh,
And I did so good, didn't I? Haven't I been real good, guys? Yup. Yup. Some sweet little lies. Blondie, yeah, just rewrite it and I will try to look for it right now. Okay. All right. This weekend at the Minnesota GOP, we were plagued by voting irregularities due to the party forcing us to use electronic clickers. The party of voting integrity chose the least secure and reliable voting method, which is causing all candidates to reject the farce and go to primary. Mike Lindell was right again. Ryan, I'm telling you what happened over there. I heard all about it. I mean, we'll see how it goes. Unbelievable. And speaking of Minnesota, there are other comments. You know, I just don't like your system. I think it's like completely convoluted, but also it's like the insiders club. I don't like it at all. But it's been like this for a while. For people who don't know, yes, Minnesota has a primary, but they can really like pick their people, pick their person at the convention, and then everybody else basically it's like a good faith I agree to quit. And that's not right. Lindell was right. How's your Minnesota Dem primary polling going? And I know who this is. Do you think getting party nomination is helpful in an open primary now and going forward, depending on candidate quality? Minnesota GOP chose a token candidate. Thoughts? Truth be told, too, I mean, Trump can kill this. Mike Lindell could just choose not to get out, and then Trump could crush this whole thing. Like, that would be it. And honestly, Mike was good with taking how that went, but it's just not right. Anyway, it's stupid to pick somebody who's down in the polling, and she's down. In the Democratic side, you're in second place. Now, don't get me wrong. Obviously, Klobuchar is the front runner, you know, but I did notice you were actually in second place. I don't know how you did it. It was crazy. I mean, it's kind of close, but like you held second place the entire time. I'll put it out. I'll make it public. There's some other stuff I want to make public with that as well. Tell Minnesota GOP they can't win Minnesota, so form a coalition with me to take out AIPAC at primary. Honestly, if they do what they do, you may have an opening. I don't know. I mean, but we'll have to see how that goes. Minnesota GOP's real shot of beating the AIPAC Amy. They can beat her in a general. This is what I'm worried about in Minnesota. They have constantly run these like vanilla establishment candidates and they just get crushed anyway. So it's like about time, try something different. You know, because you're just going to get outspent and succumb to the blue U of the state anyway. See, I mean, especially in this environment, you have to do something different and out of the box. And, you know, look, the Speaker of the House, congratulations. You were the Speaker of the House and presided all over the fraud. I mean, it's just such a stupid argument. And I'm at a point where I'd rather call myself a constitutional conservative again rather than a MAGA Republican. You and tons of other people. I mean, if you saw that graphic, and I know a lot of people who never called themselves a constitutional conservative and don't know what to call themselves anymore. Actually, when it comes to Trump's coalition overall, that's a huge group of people. Mississippi resident here, you cannot be more right about all of us being sick and tired of our entire congressional contingent. Roger Wicker lost his home county by 10 points in this last primary. They're all owned by the military-industrial complex, and we know it. Yeah, I'm worried about Mississippi. I am. And I told you I was worried about it when the governor ran, when Todd ran for re-election. I just felt like that was going to be close. It was too close. And unfortunately, you know, this happened. Dolores, you guys are so correct. Barnes, he just needs to get out. Every effing time Trump opens his mouth, he puts a damn foot in it. Saw him in a Laura interview. Well, if Iran doesn't agree, we'll let our DOW take care of it. Oh my effing God. Like, what the hell does that even mean? I don't give a flippin' F who claims victory. Just get the hell out. Say it. Damn it. Take the L if you have to. But for the love of God, just get out. Ah! That's a great comment. But I totally get it. I really do. I mean, it just doesn't matter. What are we going to argue that we won? We didn't win. What are we winning? What are we winning? It's ridiculous. What does Maria Madelson have to gain from funding anti-ICE protesters? Good question. Also, Cam Higbee infiltrated signal chats and found the protesters were many government employees, up to the lieutenant governor in New Jersey the same. Why did Trump fold instead of revealing corruption of rioters in Minnesota and fire Bavino? Thank you. I mean, I feel like they felt they were too behind in the narrative war. And that's there was a big push for like from Amnesty people. And they felt that I think he just felt like he was being tricked. Like if I can do this and I moderate, it'll be better for the midterms. Nothing could be farther from the truth. All they had to do was reform what they were doing. Caving pisses off your base. Not changing pisses off the middle. So the answer is to not cave and piss off your base and make some moderate reforms. We gave them an entire list of what to do, and it wasn't even a big list. And please the middle, placate the middle, and explain to the middle that we understood, we heard you loud and clear, but we still need to do these enforcement measures, which we know you as the American public still support. So this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to change it up to make everything a little clearer picture for everybody, right? A little bit more organized, a little bit more, use a process you can have more faith in. And I think that the amnesty people just got to him. And what does Maria Madelson and other people like Bill Ackman, by the way, have to gain by funding? They want amnesty. It's that simple. Where is Maria Madelson's money now? Because a lot of it isn't even in. It's not casino anymore, even though they keep calling her casino. She was the wife of a casino magnate. She herself is not. Where does her money go now again? What does she make money in? Right. Bill Ackman, why does he fund it? How does Bill Ackman make money again? Right. And the people he invests in that portfolio, what do they need? Cheap labor. Right. So these people don't give two flying shits about immigration, anything. It's just disgusting. Laura, you gotta be kidding me, Laura. Did I really just get this sponsored message? Sponsored question? All right, we're going to end it with this because this is good. People's Pundit, I was curious how it is you have such an awesome wife. Who could have asked that question? I can't imagine who that is. Well, I mean, I think I can't tell the answer to that. I can't. Because if I do, I may incriminate myself. Plus, I can't be giving away my secrets. All right, let me just say to the boomer comment, I believe they mentioned something about Razor Fist. I don't know. I didn't watch what he wrote, but here's why Razor Fist and the rest of them are wrong. All right, I didn't watch what he said, right? It's just another one of those millions of shows that used to cite our polling all the time when it made them feel good, but now because they don't want to have to confront reality, all of a sudden I've turned on Trump. Okay, bro. When you spend like, I don't know, $1.3 million of your own money over 10, 12 years to, for the cause, let me know. Here is, and I'm going to read it verbatim because I don't want to mess anything up. But I've written this. I'm going to write an article in Real Clear Politics about it. Here's the problem with the boomers vote in midterms argument. The most important problem is that it's outdated. As in like 2014 called and they want their boomer electorate back. Fox boomer cons are not a majority of boomers. And the more conservative silent gen has been phasing out of the greater age block 65 plus and making it a more competitive age block overall. And we have seen that in results, haven't we? This trend has and will continue as Boomer 1, because we can separate boomers into Boomer 1 and Boomer 2. The Jones boomers, all right? The Jones boomers missed the draft. They were a predominantly professional class
They were the creators of the professional class, managerial class in this country. They were the antithesis of the working class, but made up a large part, along with the working class, of what we now refer to overall as the middle class. But great disparities in them, between them. All right. Boomer 1, which fought the war, all right, which was more flag waving, they turn 80 this year. And the block becomes overall more pre-draft boomer Jones voters as time goes on. And this will happen very quickly. It has already been measurable. You can see the impact. It's already been measurable. In 2022, a favorable GOP year in which Republicans won the national popular vote for the House of Representatives. They won 65 plus by 14 points, right? That was up just 8 points, though, from 18 when they lost. They got their ass kicked. And it's a margin that shrunk by 11 points for Trump in 2024 to just 3 points, which, by the way, was 1 point worse than he earned with that age block, margin-wise, in 2020, which he lost. Remember? Weird. As you can see, doing better with younger voters is critical. It was critical to Republicans winning the House, but they still needed Trump-like support from younger voters, Trump-like 2024 younger voter support to win races in battleground and competitive states like Arizona, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Nevada. We can go down the line. In 2018, which was a pro-Democratic cycle as opposed to 2022, and it's a cycle as of right now that is approximately 5 points less Democratic than right now. In other words, the national mood in now compared to 2018, same day in history comparing. The national mood now is about 5 points more Democratic than it was at this point going into the election in 2018. Republicans won 65 plus in 2018 by just 6 points. And that was before COVID, the pandemic, which helped fuel steep declines in the share of the remaining silent gens that are part of or were part of the 65 plus age bucket. Time did the rest. It's inevitable. Time moves on, waits for nobody, and we all die. But the point being, 65 plus is more Democratic now than it was in 2018 due to more conservative generations like the silent gen aging out. And yes, sure, boomers vote. Unfortunately, a shit ton of them are going to vote against Republicans in 2026. Again, I've brought this up before. I'll bring it up again. As USA Today recently wrote an entire analysis of, Boomer 1 is voting on cost of living issues this year, not on foreign policy. Even if the war and the policy was popular, it was still a foolish gamble. Republicans were much better off accepting the realities and the challenges of their 2024 coalition, a dominant coalition, and the nature of the realignment. And they should have immediately begun working on turning as many of these voters as possible into higher propensity voters instead of fracturing it for a fucking scheme that would require a time machine for it to even work. Understand? 65 plus doesn't look the same today as it did in 2014 or even 18 for that matter. It was stupid. The better bet, well, Brad, how do we get them to vote? Well, first and foremost, good domestic policy that gives people good wages and good jobs and good old-fashioned confidence and integrity to get married and have children. Supporting what you claim to have fucking supported, like the family unit, America first, would have naturally benefited you. That's what Reagan was talking about, by the way. Until that's right. Neocons ruined his fucking administration too. And if it wasn't for his approval being 56, where yours fucking isn't, he would have been removed because of the Iran-Contra scandal. Wake up. Grandma should have put on a little makeup.
Snap out of it. It's too late now to be in these delusions. All right. Frankly, it was too late when I was already saying that it was the hour was late and we had to snap out of the delusions. All right. But now it is just way too late. And we're not going to entertain the delusions anymore. All right. I have a very funny clip that we can outro to. And saw Cassandra tweeting about it. And she was just like, oh, I just love this. This was delicious. And it's like, you can't be this, and Milo too. I respond like Milo. I'm like, you can't go on a show like this after you have been proven as stupid as somebody like David Rubin and expect to go on Surrounded and not get fucking annihilated. All right. Like, this is what happens when someone who thinks they're smarter than they are and has recently has demonstrated that they, in fact, do not have a grasp on the issues they claim to have a grasp on. This is what happens when someone like that goes on a show like this, not understanding where his place in the world is, and then just gets fucking destroyed and doesn't understand, like, how did this happen to me? Like, now I'm humiliated. And you'll see there's a point where eventually he's just losing the argument so badly that he retreats into the, but there are good nations and bad nations argument, which is ridiculous, of course, because then that kid proceeds to point out how we're allies with a ton of shitty ass nasty nations. So he just made a fool of himself and it was epic. But I bring it up because he did in fact get into a fight with Barnes over, if you guys remember, what? Closing the Strait of Hormuz. Remember? Iran will never close the Strait of Hormuz. You actually may remember, we can go back before that. All right? Here we have Dave Rubin, who supported Ron DeSantis along with Mark Levin, but now knows MAGA better than MAGA. We can go back before that straight mess up to last year when he said Epstein wouldn't matter. And this is just a joke. Of course, now, as I have demonstrated to you countless times, Epstein is all over the interviews in our polling, all over it, riddled with Epstein here, Epstein there, Epstein everywhere. But he also said that limited strikes, just limited strikes, and won't lead to a regime change war. Then an actual regime change war kicks off, and it's, but this isn't really a regime change war. And then it was, of course, proven to be a regime change war. And then it was, but we can actually take them out from the sky. Dave, like, I don't know, bro. You're not an international relations expert. Like, I don't know, say this guy. And that shit has never happened in the history of U.S. warfare. I mean, the history of human warfare. And the history of flying machines in human civilization. That has never happened. But it's going to happen this time because I don't think you realize with AI how great it is. Okay, whatever, bro. Then we continue. And, like, obviously you can't conduct a fucking regime change from the air. So now he just shifts the goalpost again into, but okay, then you just are okay with people getting fucking nuked, man. Like, dude, it's the lowest IQ fucking slop. This is Bushism slop. Okay. And he goes on and he gets his ass handed to him by a child. And it's hilarious. Child in my eyes, I'm 44 years old. That's a kid. Well, never mind. He might like that phrase. I won't say that. So before I play the clip, let me just take it on out of here and say this. Don't forget, if you like the videos, don't forget to like them. And of course, to share them far and wide. Thank you to everybody who sent super chats and Rumble rants and locals tips and whatever else, that we have out there. We really do appreciate the support as always. Don't forget, Robert is sportspicks.locals.com. You'll check out all of his things. I couldn't put it up on the screen, but he's got odds for every single one, not just win or loser. He's got odds for every single one, what he thinks it should be trading at versus, because there's stuff where you can make money just to play off the odds, to bet on whether or not the odds are right, and then get out, cash out, take your money and bounce. Or don't ride it to the win. If it's 60% and it should be 90, you'll ride it to the win at some point, stuff like that. And then of course mine is right there. That's the best place. We're everywhere. Don't forget, if you're on Gram, go follow me on Instagram at peoples_pundit on Instagram. It's the same thing as on X. But Locals is like definitely the best place to follow us if you want to follow our polling, which will, like, data wise, Locals has the 28 matchups that we were referring to before. I have not released them publicly yet. I gave them to locals. I have to give them Real Clear Politics pretty soon, but that's why you'd follow us on locals, because that's what you get typically before others would get it. All right. Other than that, I think this was a productive, great show today. Super clocking on what? 3 hours and 20 minutes? Shit. All right. Let me play this hilarious ass video of David Rubin getting cleaned. Then we'll roll into music. And I will see you guys on, well, locals, I'll see you tomorrow, but I'll see you on Wednesday. Thanks for watching. What are the odds, folks? All the best.
Well, first off, the disastrous war, the quote-unquote disastrous war that you're talking about. You're talking about a 40-day military operation that stopped an apocalyptic regime from getting a nuclear bomb and exporting terrorism throughout the world. And we're now in an economic embargo of them, right? We've basically done a blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. So to say it's a disastrous war,
we've done a blockade.
We did lose. Hang on. We did lose 13. We did lose 13 of our soldiers, and that is
and killed over
terrible.
200 children.
But well, things happen in war, right?
Yeah,
things, yeah. Well, things do happen in war. You guys, wait, you can laugh at that. Hold on. Listen, you want to talk?
If Donald Trump wanted to prevent the Islamic Republic of Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon, he could have just stuck with the Iran nuclear deal that he ripped up. Iran did not enrich past the 3.67. Wait, they didn't enrich past the 3.67% agreed upon in the JCPOA. They only got to 60% after Donald Trump left that deal.
I'm impressed with your talking points. You got impressive talking points, and you memorized them well. They're not correct, but I am impressed.
Okay.
First off, the Iranians admitted in the negotiations right before the war started that they were enriching past what they were allowed to. That's number one. Number two, can you agree or verify their claims? It's one thing to say, oh, this is what we're doing, this is what we are agreed to, etc. But you have to be able to verify that. And the idea that we have people on the ground or the UN or some third-party organization that can verify what they're actually doing.
The IAEA assessments agree with me, and Tulsi Gabbard, our Director of National Intelligence, testified in front of Congress last year, and according to the entire intelligence community, Iran did not have a nuclear weapons program.
Okay. That they didn't have a nuclear weapons program. They were enriching past the point that they were allowed to for civilian use. Everyone knows that. But allow me.
But do you understand a weaponization process is different than just enriching?
Do you think the Iranian regime before this war, the Iranian regime that has oppressed the people of Iran for 40 years, do you think that was a good regime? Would you say that was a good government? Would you like to live under those people? Were they progressive in any way? Do they hold any of the values that any of you guys hold?
No, but we don't just start wars on countries whose politics we disagree with or who are oppressive to their own people. We were actually an ally to Saudi Arabia.
And he did keep going to other ones. I mean, that was just an epic. Are they a good nation? Okay, Dave, Ukraine's the freaking most corrupt nation on the planet. There are no good nations or bad nations. There are only rational nations that make rational decisions in an international state of anarchy in the pursuit of relative power for the purpose of survival. Read a fucking book, bro. Don't forget, speaking of books, pre-order Burn It Down, links in the description. And look, this is the entire argument. I'm going to be doing so much more on this generational divide leading up into the midterms, because Democrats seem to grasp this in a way that Republicans do not. This transformation of the electorate will happen very, very quickly. And Republicans had a good foothold to be able to build something and, bridge off of what Trump built in 24 as a coalition and bridge it into a new era. And, because there'll be entirely new generation that makes up the predominant voting bloc in this country. And they effed it up for the likes of idiots like that and stupid policy like that. And they don't have much time to course correct, because if Democrats are allowed to naturally settle in as the natural home for these new voters, we're screwed. Absolutely screwed. All right. So pre-order Burn It Down if you haven't already. If you are waiting on the audio book, hopefully I'll have some news on that shortly. Like Cynic, I know Cynic has been. Hopefully I'll have some news on that for you guys real soon. But links in the description to the video, links also in the chat. And with that, I'm going to get out of here, and I hope you all have a great rest of your night. Thanks for watching, everybody.